Shush.
Hey, everyone out there, just give us a few more minutes. We want to see if anyone else joins, and we will get started shortly. I'm seeing some new names here I don't recognize. So we're going to start out like we always do, just checking in and see if anyone, checking in on contacts and database. And then I will introduce Eric for today's Ignite class. So just give us 1 second here.
Aaron, how does this microphone sound okay to you? Not. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Just got to make sure, you never know if these things are working right.
All right, I am expecting 1 or 2 more folks to join, so we're just going to give them 1 more second here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So for those of you joining us as guests for the Ignite Day, we do start out every class with a little bit of accountability and support. Our PC folks that join on the off Ignite days, we ask to make 10 phone calls every day, add 10 names to their database, write 10 handwritten notes, and then do 10 home previews is part of the new agent program. So if I kind of call you out and that's not something that you're doing, feel free to let me know. That's fine. But if you're going to continue to, join these Ignite days, it's just if you're looking to jumpstart your business this year and really get things going, then I suggest that you participate in that as well. Okay, well, he's not here. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. So like as promised, we call it our 10-4, and I'll start with Wiz. How are things going with you, Wiz?
Hello. Well, everything's doing good, but until like yesterday, I got a second round of COVID, so it's kind of like, But yeah, I tried to call a couple of people yesterday, but just couldn't sore throat so bad. But I texted some possible clients. So 2 of them, I actually texted 3. 2 didn't reply, and 1 just said, "Can we talk some other time?" So nothing exciting.
All right, awesome. Thanks for letting us know. Ashley, how about you? I think you're muted. I'm sorry.
Unmute. There we go.
There it is.
Sorry, that took a second. Hi. So what I ended up having with me is I became an agent actually the end of last April, May. And so I've kind of been doing it for a while, but there's some classes that I didn't take because I actually ended up having a heart surgery.
Oh, wow.
So that knocked me out for a little bit, but I am back doing really well and ready to start the new year off, blazing. So I actually have a new client and I took him out to a property yesterday. And so he's thinking about that. And I think we're going to do a walkthrough with the listing agent. And then I did this like vision board. I started this lead generator program with realtor.com. So they're sending me some leads that way. And then I started this Facebook program. So it kind of gives you this idea on what to post like 5 days out of the week. So one day it's like inspirational, one day it's educational, one day it's about the community. So I've been starting to do that, and that's pretty much where I'm at.
Awesome. Well, welcome back. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you.
Dan, are you able to chime in today?
Yeah. I've been trying, I'm a newer agent, and I've been trying to get some contacts in. I'm just doing a lot of learning right now, hitting all the learning courses I can.
In what market center are you in, Dan?
I'm in with the Keller Williams, Umpqua Valley.
Umpqua Valley. Great. Well, great. This is a great place to learn. I think you're going to get a lot out of today's class. Really, the kind of the first week of our launch is all about goal setting. We do a lot of talking about goal setting. We did the 1-3-5 on Monday, and then kind of drill it down with looking at another way of goal setting, and then implementing those goals for some self accountability with the 4-1-1. So if anybody is here today that missed those two, I'm happy to send you the recordings. If you want to email me, I'll send them over to you. Jamie, how about you?
I'm new too. I haven't, I just got licensed the beginning of November.
Awesome.
So I'm still taking all these classes and stuff too. So
Well, welcome.
that's
Glad
my
to have
first
you.
Ignite class. So
Yeah, it's good to have you here. Let's see, who else have I missed here? Erin?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I'm just now, this is my first class, so I'm a little bit new. I'm not a new agent, but I'm new to the class, so.
Well, thank you for joining us. Good to have you here. Yeah, these Ignite days, they're open to everyone at all levels. I like to say that, for me, I always make sure that I try and take a social media how to post class once a quarter, because it's one of my big areas of opportunity. And so just anytime I can kind of drill that information home and revisit it, once every 3 months is pretty much good for me. So, if you know other agents in the offices that are kind of looking to jumpstart 2022, yeah, have them join us on the Ignite days, whether in their PC program or not, they're more than welcome. Okay, so Troy?
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hey, yeah, I'm not a new agent either, but I have a team and I'm looking for just some support to, train, help my team the best that I can. And I think Gary says that the basics never expire or something like that. So I think it'll be good to sit in on this and be a part of it. So
welcome, Troy. Good to have you. Okay, so for today, Ignite Your Business, we have from our Sunset Corridor office and the Portland area PC coach, Coach Eric. Eric's been in the business 20 plus years, has a background in coaching. And so we're really happy to have him here. With that, I will turn things over to him.
Well, hi. Thank you very much for the introduction, Aaron, and for going through the numbers there. As he said, we're here to help you guys succeed. So if you're missing something or missed a class, certainly happy to get it to you if we can, or if you just have questions about something we covered in a day, reach out and either one of us can help you out. We're here to help you out. So help you reach your goals. So welcome to those. I guess I've met a couple of you, but for the rest of you, I'm happy to be here. As you mentioned, I'm the productivity coach out of Sunset Corridor, and I've been around Keller Williams almost 20 years as a realtor, and my passion actually is in coaching and consulting. I do work for companies outside of real estate as well, but it's just my passion to help people, be their best, help them achieve their goals and be whatever it is you want to be, really. So that's what I'm here for. Today is, well, as you all know, it's kind of like sort of a kickoff within Ignite. There's lots of the goal setting. You guys, actually, quick sort of show of hands, maybe. I don't know if it's easier to say who was here for yesterday or day before, or who wasn't, but maybe who missed yesterday or the day before. Anybody? Or most of you? Some of you? No. So the reason I ask is I'm not intending to go through the the goal setting and whatnot again today yet. It is a foundational piece. So for sure you want to, jump into that and understand it. And, it'll serve you very well to know. So do follow up on that. And yeah, today we'll endeavor to just really move through this material, and hopefully if you guys have questions along the way, feel free to ask. Some of this stuff we're going to go through, for some of you, you've heard it before, and I'm sure Troy's heard some of this before. And if you feel like you have anything to add, any one of you, like that you've maybe experienced before and you want to contribute to some of these things we're working on and covering, then feel free. This is I don't want this to be a lecture. Hopefully we can make it more of I guess a conversation, to the extent that we can, right? Even though it'll be a conversation where I'm speaking all the time, right? So, anyway, first thing, I guess if anybody doesn't have a book or the instruction or the materials, you'll just have to bear with us on this one. It is available to you if you would like it. Actually, is there anybody here that does not have the materials? Just out of curiosity, let me see here. Well, okay, good. All right, well then let's do it. Let's get on into it here. What do we got here? I'm gonna try to keep oh yeah, sorry, just checking on. I'm gonna try to keep an eye on the chat if I can, but if I miss something, if you guys send me something, please let me know if I happen to miss it and just not paying attention to it. So all right, let's get rocking and rolling here. So here we are. Welcome to Ignite. The first thing I'd like to go through is a few questions. So if you want to follow along in your materials, the first thing we want to do is really kind of think about, as it says here, getting our head in the game. This job is tough, right? It can be easy, but it also can be challenging, and it can be a bit of a grind on you. So it's super important to understand your why, understand what it is you're driving towards, really why it is you are going to get up every day and do this. So some of these questions are helping you to sort of unpack that. And if you get to know me, you'll know that I'm a big fan of living out of your why. And so if that's something that you are struggling with or whatnot, anytime, I'm happy to just reach out to me, and I'm happy to help try to maybe even just talk you through that and see if we can, uncover that for you. I know for my coaching clients in the office, that's one of the things I sit down and talk to them about in the very beginning. So if you're on this call and you're one of my agents in Sunset Corridor, and we haven't done that, let's get together and make that happen. We can go through that. But first question here today, I'd like to have you guys take a couple minutes to look at and answer. So the first question is, have you achieved your financial goals through your career so far? And why or why not? Just take about a couple of minutes to write down these answers. And then I want to review them with you guys and get a sense. Everybody kind of participate throughout some answers. But yeah, the first one is, have you achieved your financial goals through your career so far? And why or why not? And then this is a good one to be starting off your thinking here. What is one thing that makes a real estate agent more successful than others? And why don't all agents do this? And how do you feel about that? So, and then the last question, of course, is your desire to succeed more powerful than your fear from doing the one thing that will make you successful? So take a couple minutes and do that. I'll give you let's say 2 minutes and write down some answers to those things. All right. I think that's enough time. So anybody want to volunteer? A couple of you guys volunteer. Have you achieved your financial goals through your career and what you've been doing so far? And then why do you think that is, or why isn't that? Or I'll call on you, but you can volunteer first.
Are we doing this in the chat? Or are we just talking, or?
Oh no,
how are
just tell me. Yeah, just shout it out.
I know I personally haven't, but I've been in real estate for a long time, just not as an agent. So becoming an agent is part of what I'm doing to reach my financial goals. So I'm taking steps to get there. I just not quite there yet.
Yeah.
I'll go next. I mean,
Oh, go ahead.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mine's not yet because it's my second month here as a real estate agent, and I heard like people said like the first year you're actually not gonna have your financial goal achieved. I mean, that's what I keep hearing, but this is my second month, so yeah, I haven't made anything, but spending most of it, yes.
Well, and you probably got into real estate for that opportunity, right? I mean,
yes.
You were probably not achieving your goals prior to getting into real estate, so that's why you wanted to get into this and do it, right?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
true.
Hi, so mine, I have not yet achieved my goals, but I have had a couple transactions. So that was great when those did happen. Like I said before, I'm not quite where I'd like to be because I did have a health thing come up, but I think that one of the things that makes a real estate agent more successful than others is consistency. And just like taking the steps every day, because you'll definitely start seeing movement, with different things when you do that. And why don't I think all agents do that? I think lots of times some get nervous or are afraid, or get distracted or frustrated if they're not seeing it happen right away. And then how do I feel about that? I understand why it happens. I can sympathize with that. But also I feel like it's actually pretty simple to stay consistent. And is my desire to succeed more powerful than my fear? Mine is, yes.
That's good. Well, that was a good, thank you for jumping in those other questions, because
Oh,
I mean,
sorry.
no, and that's just, I was just going to ask, because that's the thing really, right? I mean, I think we could all probably say that we haven't reached our goals, and and for at least the people I've talked to thus far throughout these, well, this certainly in this productivity coaching, that's the reason really all of us have gotten into this, is an opportunity to try to achieve our financial goals, right? So this is that new path, that opportunity being a realtor. So what is the one thing that makes real estate agent more successful than others? And you hit on it. It's that consistency. Anybody else? I'm going to tip you off that there's kind of a key element within that that you want to be consistent with. What is that? Anybody know the key element here that we need to be successful? Well, it may surprise you, but the answer to that really is to be lead generating basically daily. So your consistency that you talked about, Ashley, is important. And what you want to be consistent in is lead generating in some fashion or another, right? So what's interesting about this line of work is if it can be, it doesn't have to be particularly hard per se. The tasks that you do don't have to be particularly hard. In fact, many times they're not particularly hard, but what ends up feeling hard about it is having to do it, having to make sure you're consistent about it. A lot of people get into this business thinking, oh, hey, this is a chance for me to have this flexible schedule and do what I want and look at houses and whatever. And the truth is, we don't get to have that. You could almost say we don't really earn the opportunity to have that flexibility unless we are consistent in running our business as a business, and we have enough leads, we have enough business coming in to be able to afford to say, well, no, I'm not going to work with that client, or I'm not going to deal with that situation because, I've got some vacation coming up, or I've got, a family issue or time or something I'm planning to do. We afford ourselves that luxury of flexibility when we have more than enough leads, more than enough business. And then we're not feeling like, we can't feel good about turning something down or telling somebody, yeah, no, I can't show you that house tonight because I'm going to a movie with my significant other. And that's more important because I've already scheduled that, so truly we earn the flexibility and the peace of mind to do that by being consistent. So that's what, why don't agents, do that, is just what I was getting at. It's hard to be disciplined, honestly. Let's be, honest about it. It's really, it's one of those things where, depending on how you're wired. Now, some of you might find that you're wired towards, if you're used to anyway, if you're wired around like you like to get up and do the same thing every day, and you like to have a schedule that's exactly the same every day, more power to you. I'll admit that's not me, right? And I know for a lot of people that get into this industry, that can be a challenge. So, if you fundamentally don't believe that the lead generating every day is important, and it's not something that, I don't know if anybody was on the State of the Industry call today, but what Chris was talking about, if it's not something like where you see your future, of course you're not going to set goals that are actually driving towards where you see yourself in the future, or you see something that is your why that you're moving towards. You're not going to set those goals, and then it's going to be really hard to be disciplined to do the things that you need to do every day to move forward. Not unlike working out or going to, we use going to the gym as a prime example, right? Where if you're trying to reach an exercise, let's say you're trying to run a marathon by the end of the year or whatever, you can't just show up and run it. That's not how it works. You have to put in the time and put in the effort every day. And that's what gets you to the point where you can actually run that marathon. And so, running a real estate business and being successful in real estate truly is no different than that. It's truly like running a marathon. And as long as you put in the time every day, as long as you put in each, the steps every day, then yeah, you'll be great. I mean, you'll find that momentum will pick up, and you'll be able to earn yourself that flexibility. So does that make sense to you guys? That, did that burst any bubbles? Hope everybody thought they were going to have like an easy cush job and they were just out showing houses and running around. No, okay. Just checking. Just want to make sure, because well, I don't want to burst your bubble, but this is a fun industry, yet it's more fun when you're actually making money. So let's just be honest about it. Let's move on to the next section here. When we talk about, I said earlier, the one thing is lead generation. As it says on page 8 of your manual here, if you're looking at it, the secret, as it says here, secret's simple, and yet it's not a secret at all. It's, lead generation. And one of the important things to learn here is, he says you're in sales. Yes, sales. I'm not going to disagree with that. However, I'm going to say that, like, and I'm really coming from the mindset of being a servant. And I think we sell through, meeting the needs of people. So when we are serving others well, and especially in real estate, you'll find if we are just trying to sell somebody a house, it's not going to work. But if we are serving someone, if we are looking out for their needs truly, then you could even call it, your lead generation, looking for leads is, part of that really, and even potentially, depending on how you run your business, a lot of what you're doing is actually looking at how to serve the needs of the people that are out there, looking how to serve the needs of somebody that you haven't met yet, that's out there in the world. looking at serving the needs of, somebody who is in your database, who maybe needs, well, obviously needs help with their house selling or buying. So it's serving their needs. And then of course, for many people, what you will find is if you're able to serve people well, especially before they need you, well, then you build that trust, you build that rapport, right? And you'll find that, being able to be in the right place at the right time when it's time for someone that needs a realtor, if you're serving them well throughout, you're going to be right there. You're going to be right where you need to be. So the having the right mindset is important. Are you guys familiar with the 6 personal perspectives here? Has anybody kind of looked at that before or heard that? And in our office, in fact, I think Jake's already started a series. Our team leader, Jake, has started a series on the 6 personal perspectives. And I believe any of you guys can tune in from anywhere. He's teaching it live on Zoom, Zoom simultaneously. So if you're interested in digging in deeper on these 6 personal perspectives, I encourage you to look into that, check that out. Let's see here. I think we were talking about anybody look to read? It says here your assignment is to watch the video on the 6 personal perspectives. Did anybody actually do that? I have yet to have anybody do it, and I don't even know where it is, to be honest with you. So I'm just curious, just because I'm curious. It always shows up as an assignment in our instruction, but I don't know when you were supposed to do that. So well, anyway, let's take a look at that. Just a second here. So what I want to do here is, well, it's in your book, but let me do this here. I'm going to pull up my screen share here for y'all. And there we go. So the 6 personal perspectives, 1 is self-mastery, 2 is the 80-20 principle, 3, E to P, 4 is being learning based, 5 is not having any limiting beliefs, and then 6 is accountable. And you can kind of see these 3 circles. I like that. I'm a visual person, so I like seeing and understanding sometimes things through a visual is really helpful. And you can see that, I mean, clearly we all know this, but it's worth noting here, right? As we look at this, mindset, attitudes, approach to life, all that stuff, it's where that intersects is that sweet spot. That's really where that hum of life, where you're hitting on all cylinders, if you will. That's where it all happens. And I think it's important to remember as we look at any of these things that, you can have a great attitude or great approach to life, but your mindset's not in the right place. It's going to affect those things. And same thing, you can try to have a good mindset, but if your attitude's out of sync, it's going to affect, everything you do. So it's important to make sure we're, obviously not forgetting any one of those. So let's look at the first one here. Step 1, commit to self-mastery. So the quote here, self-mastery is a possession of great knowledge, skills, and habits that make you the master of you. So when you commit to achieving self-mastery, you know your goals, your strengths and your weaknesses. You know how to work with both your strengths and your weaknesses to seek and master the necessary knowledge, skills, and habits to reach your goals. So has anybody actually endeavored to engage in self-mastery in any part of their life? Like, for example, you might be like a musician, of course, might be somebody like if they're working on really trying to master something or whatever. Anybody want to chime in and say, yeah, I've been, I'm a master bricklayer, or I don't know, whatever. Anybody? Nothing? Come on, you guys. Nothing? Okay, well, now's your chance. You get to commit to self-mastery of being a realtor, all right? Hey, Don't look so excited, you guys. No, but for real. So, I mean, like, in all honesty, if we're going to desire to actually achieve some level of success in this industry, I mean, let's look at this. When you commit to achieving self-mastery, you, number one, know your goals. So let me ask you guys, if you don't have any goals or any, are you going to get anywhere? I mean, what's really? No? I mean, does anybody think you're going to get somewhere without goals? You'll get somewhere maybe, but you won't get where you want to go. That's for sure. So I think we can all agree, right? It's important. It's key. So we got to know your goals, and we can, of course, goals is a big word, and there's sometimes a lot of different feelings people have around that. But let's just, for the sake of right now, let's just say you gotta have some sort of goal, something you're aiming towards, right? The second part is here, know your strengths and weaknesses. So again, let me ask you, if you don't stop and actually take a minute and take take the time to understand who you are, what you're all about, the things you do well, the things you don't do well, how do you expect to show up? I mean, how do you expect to show up and do well, let alone be a mastering, right? But I mean, how would you, if you don't have a sense of that? And I think most of us do, right? But if we don't stop and actually say, okay, I'm gonna say, hey, I'm really good at this. I'm great at writing. I'm not so good at whatever, math, or I don't know, whatever. What are some things that I'm good at? What are the things I'm not good at? And have a good, have a good sense and understanding within your both in terms of within your heart, as you're looking at yourself and being honest with yourself too, right? By the way, because the reality is, if you do this exercise for yourself and you are, like telling yourself a story, really you're misleading and misguiding yourself. So it's important to be honest and say, hey, you know what? Just like I'll give an example recently, as I've been doing my reflecting on who I am in life and where, my strengths and weaknesses. One of the things I had to come to grips with was, over the many years, I kind of thought of myself as an entrepreneur, you might say. And it's in recent years, it's become more clear that I think when I was younger and had more energy, I was able to sort of fake that. But the truth is, I'm not an entrepreneur. I do not like starting something from nothing. I really don't. And I don't. But what I do really well is at taking something and refining it and plussing it and taking whatever it is and making it better. And so I had to understand my strengths and my weaknesses, because what was happening was I was operating out of my weaknesses, often thinking, okay, I'll start this new thing, or help, I'll work on this thing that's brand new and is nothing, and I'm going to start this new whatever. And I realized, you know what, that's been the problem. I keep trying to put myself in a place where it requires my weaknesses to be my strengths. And then I'm floundering or frustrated or can't figure out, I'm not getting the results I want. I'm like, what's the deal? So truly, if we want to, if we just be honest with ourselves and say, hey, gosh, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? And again, for anybody that sits down with me, and if you guys want, reach out to me too, of course, but your coach can walk through this with you. One of the things we talk about when I talk about my people here, and again, if I haven't talked to you yet, let's get together, because this is the foundational part of our coaching relationship is figuring out what you're good at, right? So I have one of the agents that's in my program. Turns out she's really good with social media stuff, just naturally. She's younger and she's in it, and so that's a strength that she can leverage. And actually, just right out of the gate, she has the ability to get traction doing something she's already good at. So we could work on the other things that she needs help with, but it's really good to identify and see strengths and then work within them. So anyway, that's it truly is where the rubber meets the road, when we know our goals, know what we're going after, and we know our strengths and weaknesses, because that's how it's really going to help us know where we need to shore up, where we need to operate out of. And by the way, I'll be the first person to say, I'm not a fan of the, here's where I'm strong, and then here's the things I'm not good at, I'm gonna go work on the things I'm not good at. I'm a fan of, and this is me just digesting stuff over, many years in this kind of work and whatnot. You focus on the things you're really good at and be really good at them. And there are times where we need to shore up in areas, but don't make it, your goal should not be being great at everything. Your goal should be to be really good and focused on the things that you are really good at. And then if you have to shore up on something else to allow you to be successful in the things you're good at, fine. But most of the time you're going to find either leverage, help, or you're going to just learn enough of it so that you're not crippled by it. And then just stay in your zone and do really good in the things you're really good at, So anybody, any thoughts on that as we're kind of looking here in the committee, the first step in the committing to self-mastery? I know I'm talking a lot. I would prefer this was a class where we could all sit across from each other, but that ain't what we're doing, is it? Chime in. Anybody has any thoughts? Just tell me. Keep going, Eric. Faster or slower. I don't care. Whatever.
Keep going, Eric.
All right. If it gets bad enough, I'm going to break out the whiskey and then we can really get this thing rolling. All right. Virtual toast. No. So step 2, commit to the 80-20 principle. Who here has like really, so show of hands, who has heard of the 80-20 principle? Who has been living under a rock? If everybody that didn't raise their hand should be raising their hand now, because the 80-20 principle, it may surprise you, but it's been around us as people. It's in your world and you don't even realize it. It is a principle that is around in so many aspects of our economy and our life, and it's an interest. It's been studied. This isn't like a real estate thing, just so you know. It's been studied by countless people over hundreds of years. I mean, probably even thousands of years, frankly, from what I understand. So it's truly something that is it's a fundamental principle of how our world is, you might say. As it says here, the idea that 20% of your actions lead to 80% of your results. It may be one of the most powerful principles you can apply in your life. Has anybody here heard of the one thing, or who has not? Anybody not heard of the one thing? I always ask you yes or no's on that. Like, shout out if you have heard of and or read the one thing. I want to know if there's anybody here that has. Troy, I hope you have, because you really need to.
Yeah, that was one of the first things we did. We actually had a training up in Hillsboro that was really good too. If no one's here has read it, it's definitely a good read for sure.
Yeah. So in last session, I talked about this too. Anybody has, I would just encourage every one of you to get that book. It's not a long book, and it's not a book like a novel. It is a book that will inform and change your perspective on how you do your life. I guarantee you, how about this? I guarantee you, you'll get the book, read it, and if it did not change your life, I will buy the book from you. Okay, every one of you. I'm just telling you that right now. Go get it, read it, and if you're like, this is garbage, I will give you your money, and I will take the book because I want to give it to somebody else. So that's my commitment to you. And all I ask is that each one of you guys find it, listen to it, get it online. I don't really care where. Get it and start incorporating it. And ideally, I would love to have all of you do it before the end of this year, before the end of this quarter. Have you actually go through it? It is not, I mean, it's going to inform even how you take this class, truly. So the reason I bring that up is it is what it's getting at is this principle of what is the one thing such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary. So it's like, this is talking about the 80-20 principle. It's taking the 80-20 principle to like drilling down to refining it to like, what is just, if you did one thing today, just one thing, what is that one thing in your whole day that if you did that, everything else would become either easier or unnecessary, right? So if you just like for a second actually thought about that, it's mind-blowing. But the book, he goes into how to really understand that and approach that and the science behind it. But the 80-20 principle is a key to self-mastery because it's based on that truly not everything you do, I want you guys to hear this, not everything that you do gives equal results. So not every single thing, think about it, in your daily life, not everything that you invest your energy in gives you back equal results or equal, I want to say return on investment, but it's a business term, but you guys know what I'm saying. Not everything will return that equally. So real estate and practicing, yeah, right? It's always a practice. As a realtor, here's the thing, as a realtor, if you're going to succeed in this, you're going to have 826 things that you could do in any given day. I don't know if anybody was on this call. I've referenced it before, but the call this morning with Chris, he talked about he talked about this whole thing. There are so many distractions and so many things you could be doing. The truth is that many of those things, and even at times, some of those things may seem important, but they're not. They're not important to actually making something happen. And spending your time, when you have to divide up the amount of time you have available, and you focus on, if you end up doing certain things, you might make your checklist might be done, but at the end of that checklist, you don't have any business still, or you don't. Let's say you did all these other things and you didn't return the call, and you didn't write out that repair addendum, and you didn't do these other aspects of that transaction. Well, those are actually the most important things that you should have been spending your time on, and then filling in with the other things, right? Your 20%, figuring out what your 20% is critical. So, I mean, we could teach a whole class on this, but I'm going to end up going, I don't want to beat this into the ground too badly yet. As I started to say, or as I said, when we started this little step, it is really critical to your success. If you do nothing more, I mean, all these things are good, right? That's why they're all here. And if you truly digested the information in that book, The One Thing, which is basically, this is like taking this step 2 to like a whole nother level. If you run your life that way, I guarantee you are going to be successful in whatever you're doing. You'll be successful with your family. You'll be successful with your work. You'll be successful in anything you are doing. I guarantee you. It is so powerful. So just like, trust me, get the book, and there you go. That's my soapbox. So step 3, move from E to P. E to P. So anybody, I wish we were more interactive here, because I'd love to chat with you guys about it more, but moving from E to P.
Sorry, Eric, what was the book called again?
The One Thing.
The One Thing. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, The One Thing. I'm one of the, if anybody looks it up online, just drop a link in the chat for the rest of us. That'd be awesome. So step 3 here, moving from E to P. Anybody familiar with this? Do you know what I mean? If you're not reading ahead, what does E mean? Shout it out. Anyone? Troy knows, but anybody else?
Entrepreneurial.
There you go. What does P mean?
Purposeful.
Yes. So entrepreneurial sounds like a great word. What's wrong with E then? What's wrong with that? Why are we having to move away from being entrepreneurial and P to purposeful? I mean, entrepreneurial is good, isn't it? I mean, right? What's the struggle, and what's the challenge that we're overcoming and moving from E to P? Anyone want to throw out what they think it is?
Don't you kind of have to have both? I mean, if you're not purposeful, then how are you going to be successful in your entrepreneurial goals?
Yeah. Anyone else want to chime in on that? I mean, it's if you're reading page 11, it's kind of right there. Yet I'm gonna say it out loud. So the entrepreneur, correct. If you didn't have entrepreneur, you wouldn't be anywhere, right? You wouldn't have anything. Yet that will only get you to a certain level of success, and we know that to be true. We all know, right? I mean, if we imagine like anybody who's played an instrument or a sport or anything like that they've done, or you've watched your child or whatever, if they just go out and do it, wouldn't you agree there's a level of success that they will, naturally obtain, right? We know that to be true, right? At some point though, they reach that level, they reach this level of what they call natural achievement, right? So at some point you basically you only get so far with your natural skill, your natural achievement. And if you want to, and what happens truly is that at that point, you reach this level of achievement, and then there's this sort of tension where you kind of just bounce along. Like you're doing really well, and you hit this kind of a what feels like a glass ceiling, and then you kind of bounce off it, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. And then you kind of, if you were looking at like a graph, you kind of just you fade off. Like you see this with student athletes, especially. I coach, and so you see this. They've reached what they can do, and then they kind of whatever, and then they get the energy back up again, and all right, I'm after it, I'm going for it, and then they just get as far as they can get, right? And then like they kind of get discouraged, like I can only throw it that far, run that far, or whatever. I'm just not getting any better, and that's with business. It's very, very common. Now I've been in the business a while, and I can tell you, both in real estate and other businesses, entrepreneurials, particularly entrepreneurs, they'll push hard. They're really excited about this. They really want to build their business. They build, and then they kind of hit their natural level of success. And then they're like, well, whatever. And then they get distracted, and then, okay, all right, I'm getting after it, I'm going to do this. And then usually if they hit their head on the glass ceiling a few times, they kind of get discouraged, and they get what's called burnout. You guys have all heard of burnout. That's super common, right? Well, the bummer about that is it's avoidable, and it's avoidable by engaging with someone who is going to help you to break through, find whatever that level, that ceiling of success in whatever it is. Or it's, like it's really common in people who are choosing to play an instrument and play it well. Anybody who's ever done that, if any of you have, you probably could relate. There's a point where you just kind of can't break through it. And when you find that right coach or the right instructor, somebody that's helping you, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, you hit a whole new level of like, wow, I could never strum that riff, or I couldn't figure out how to drum that thing out. And now I like, oh my gosh, just like my mind's blown. I can do this now, there's those types of breakthrough moments. And that really comes from engaging with a coach or engaging with someone. Now, sometimes you can do it on your own, but 99 times out of 100, people do not do it on their own. And it's not that and the 1 out of 100 that does it on their own, it's not their own. It's that they're really good at actually engaging with material that's pulling them through, and they're good at self-reflection and fixing themselves. But I would say that's just more like 1 in 1,000 probably. So really we are here, and Ignite is part of this whole series. We know that each of you has your own areas that you are good, and your strengths and your weaknesses. And if you have this entrepreneur spirit and you really want to grow, and you really want to get to some level of success, you're going to do that. But at some point, you're going to reach that natural level. And, Troy, even coming on here today, I would just wager that he's probably like, hey, I want to break through where I'm at, and so I'm going to go back to the basics. I'm going to engage in some of these classes and these things to help me kind of refound foundation my business. And then I'm going to push through, and through coaching and other inputs, he's going to break through this ceiling where he's stuck at. And that is normal. That is life. And moving from E to purposeful, it's like I am being intentional and purposeful about breaking through and becoming better at this and better at this and better at this. And so that's where becoming, E is you bounce along, you burn out, but being purposeful is where you're really going to see success. And you're really going to, it could be a mindset thing. Remember, guys, like there's a whole class on how you think about money, right? And one of the biggest challenges for people is their mindset around what money is, money as a tool, and what money is, and how much, because people call it their thermostat, right? The ceiling that they can mentally like even see or realize or understand, and it's truly, all of us have that glass ceiling, like we all do. And it has, anyway, without going off in the class around that, to break through that requires reprogramming and help somebody to help you break through and see a whole new perspective that's different than where you're at, being purposeful. So anybody want to chime in on anything there? Or I'll just keep on keeping on, but I didn't want to take away the opportunity for somebody to chat if they wanted to. So the fourth step, make being learning based the foundation of your action plan. Okay, so you guys are all here. I know you're sitting here thinking, oh, good Lord, I don't want to listen to this guy for 2 more hours. And I get it, right? I would prefer not to sit here and talk for 2 hours. I prefer to like engage with you guys on all this as much as we can, but here we are. So there's a caveat to this, making learning based the foundation of your action plan. It should be a foundational stone. It should not be your action plan. Just going to classes all day, every week, every month. Anybody that's been around, I'm sure Troy could speak to this too. It's so easy to just spend all your time in classes and say, oh, I'm just learning this. And justifying it, mind you. Oh, I'm justifying it because I got to learn how to do this contract thing. And I got to learn how to, use the space bar on my computer. And I got to learn how to, whatever, right? Yes, fine. But you need to take action. So learning, if there's some foundational learning, that's what I'm saying. As a foundational stone, it is an important like keystone. It is not what should be your entire real estate plan. It's not simply just taking classes till you die. You want to make learning based a key part of your 20%. And actually, most of the time, learning is going to be a critical part of your 80% that you're going to figure out. Well, it's going to be part of your 20%, but it's not going to be the leading 20%, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But it is one of those things where if you can stay ahead of learning so that it stays important, but it doesn't become urgent. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the 4-quadrant: urgent, important, not urgent. Man, I'd love to draw that out for you really quick, but the 4 corners are, urgent, important, urgent, not urgent. Anything that's not important and not urgent, you should just not be doing. Anything that's important but not urgent, keep in mind that it will move itself and become urgent if it's important. And so that's your opportunity to stay proactive. Learning is something that often is important, and it shouldn't be urgent. It should be something you learn how to do before you need to do it. But sometimes it is going to be something you're going to learn on the fly, and that's okay. And of course, if it's urgent and not important, you have to ask yourself, why is this somebody else's problem that's been put on my plate? Really, you shouldn't be doing that. Anyway, so be learning based. Don't make it your whole plan. Step 5, remove your limiting beliefs. Like I talked about with the financial thermostat and whatever, E to P really will help you with this. So we all have them. Let's just be honest. We all have limiting beliefs. We all do. Doesn't matter what it is. And the best thing you can talk, when we talked about one of the first ones, understanding strengths and weaknesses, it's super important to understand where what your limiting beliefs are really. What's the lens through which you see life in all these different aspects of life? Those can be the beliefs that will hold you back. So one of the reprogramming challenges for all of us in really in any area of life is to figure out what those are, and then work at removing those limiting beliefs, that hold you back. It's not something that happens overnight, yet it can. I mean, it is possible to say, you know what? I'm not thinking that way anymore, and I'm gonna speak positively about these aspects that for years I've told myself negatively. That is possible, and you can do it. So again, I don't want the limiting belief to be that it's going to take forever, but it is something you have to be intentional about. I had COVID last week, by the way, and so I apologize if my voice is not like it used to be.
I think everybody's had it lately.
Yeah, right. I know. One of the things that I think is in this limiting beliefs. Well, actually, there's this activity. If you're following along in the book here, truly, as we lay out our business plan, as we lay out our goals for our business, it's important to know where your limiting beliefs are like that little voice speaking in your ear. often these limiting beliefs, if you ever hear, let me just say this to you guys personally, if you ever hear what feels like it sounds like this little voice in your head saying, oh, you can't do that, or oh, that's too much, that's too big, that's this, that's that. I mean, once in a while, somebody's truly clairvoyant, and that's actually a, you know, don't jump off that cliff, that's bad. Okay, I'm not talking about those kind of voices. I'm talking about any kind of that voice that just tells you, well, you can't do this, or that person's not going to want to talk to you, or that person's not going to pick up the phone, or they're going to say no. Or if you ever hear that, just say no, man. Just tell, I know it sounds funny, but you have a choice. You have a choice to tell your head to just turn that off and reprogram that. There's endless science on this that proves that you can, your brain is actually, it's wired, the neurotransmitters are wired around what you're used to and what's easy for it. So if you've told yourself something for so long, then that's actually the easiest path for your brain to think. And so what you need to do, and they talk about, you know, you've heard, you know, affirmations and all that. That's where that comes from. Affirmations, I know it can sound hocus pocus, but I'm telling you, if you're not a believer, there's plenty of people out there who are naysayers and now are like, I don't know what my problem was, because this is totally true. You have to scientifically reprogram the neurotransmitters in your brain to see a path that is actually easy. The path to believing something actually becomes easier than the path to telling yourself no, or whatever it is, telling yourself your limiting belief. I know that I don't know, I don't want to waste it, or I don't say waste, but I don't want to take over.
I agree
this whole thing
100% with that.
Yeah, it's out there. There's plenty of studies on it. There's plenty of, I mean, I know there's the outspoken Tony Robbins and other people, but they're not wrong, man. You got it. There's plenty. There's a book recently that I read called Get Out of Your Own Way by Dave Hollis. Get Out of Your Own Way. He says it in there earlier. He said, I thought this all was BS and hocus pocus. And he was like, I can't believe these idiots think this stuff is real. And he's a highly successful, you know, big CEO guy, big Walt Disney, all this stuff. As he's going through his book, he's like, I could not have been more wrong. He's like, I basically engaged in it just to prove that it was wrong. And he goes, I was wrong. I was actually wrong. It is 100% true. And his whole life is different now. If you look at his life now, just in the last handful of years, because he changed his mindset, he changed how he thinks, he changed his limiting beliefs, and his life is just different. And so one of the questions here, how would you redirect these negative thoughts into positive ones, into unlimiting beliefs that would fuel your success? So there's like, one of the things we talk about here, like if we look at the first question, it says, I have to be an expert and know everything before I can begin my business. You know, I'm not valid yet. So here you guys for all you guys that are newer, is anybody, I'm not calling you out in a bad sense. I'm just saying, does anybody here have that kind of feeling in your kind of gut? Like, yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing. Let's be honest. Is that true?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yes. I mean, that's okay. Because
I know it is for me, because I've been in real estate doing the transaction stuff for 18 years. And all along, I haven't thought that I would be good at actually doing the real estate part of it, but I'm stepping out, you know.
Hey, girl, you got more experience than most of the people here, and what is actually most complicated for most of us, the transaction side.
Yeah, this should be the easy part, right?
Right.
Yep.
I mean, that's important to keep that in mind, because, you know, for all the rest of you guys, think about it. Here you were sitting here going, gosh, I don't know if I know how to write a contract, or how do I process it? What if I'm in a transaction with a buyer? What do I do? And, you know, here Jamie sits here and she's done all that more times than probably any of you will do it in the next 5 years. And she's sitting here thinking she doesn't have what it takes and doesn't know enough to run this business. So it's just kind of almost proves the point that that isn't it. It's how it isn't, you know, she's got the experience and yet she still feels the very real feeling, right?
Yep.
So one of the ways we can reprogram that is to think in our mindset, think, you know, I need to be a professional, not necessarily an expert. Okay. expertise you will gain from doing something. How you show up though, how you actually show up. And when I mean show up, I mean the way that you present who you are as a person and how you're engaging with your people. That is, and I don't even mean always the, you know, the whatever, the shirt you're wearing or whatever. All of that is a part of it, of course. But truly that is a package that is, you do that in a way that is authentic to who you are meeting with. So, but anyway, if you do that stuff, you will show up as a professional and you will get the expertise you need. I'm here as a coach. There are people that you around you that will give you I have agents right now that are, man, there's one agent in my program here that is the most complicated buyer transaction. I've never had a transaction that complicated. And I'm like, this is your first buyer transaction? I could not believe I was like, what are the chances? You know, this is her first buyer transaction and it's a total dumpster fire, and it's not her fault. It's the whole thing. It's just the most crazy set of stuff that just keeps happening that I just can't believe it. So she's asking questions. She's figuring out how to show up as a professional, and that's what we're doing. We're getting through it. She doesn't have to be an expert before doing it. So you can do it. Here's I mean, this is the next one here. This one's a common one. I don't think I can achieve this crazy financial goal that you know, that I'm really trying to, you know, I want to make X dollars by the end of the year. And like, I don't know if I can do that. You know, I don't think I mean, how do I do this? I don't think I can. Right? Anybody, you guys have felt that, right? I've certainly felt that. I'll admit that, you know. I love to reprogram that and think in terms of like, if you think of it this way, in a positive way, when I set my goals and I track my goals that and complete the activities that will point me towards that goal, then the funds will come. The chances of me getting there will come, right? We can't control what other people will do. We can't control how people will respond. Yet we can control how we go about it, right? We can go through that. We can show up in the way. Let's say we're gonna let's say we're door knocking, just as a random example. I'm just throwing this out there. You can't control what somebody's going to do when they whether or not, you can't control whether or not they answer the door. You can't control what they're going to say. You can't control any of those things. However, you can control how you show up. You can control the fact that you were even there in the first place, that you're walking down the street, that you're looking in some way and presentable, just so you don't look like a street homeless person. And you can control how you stand at the door. There's all these techniques you have total agency over. You can do all of those things. And guess what? You could do all of them right. And the outcome may not be what you wanted. However, the chances of the outcome being good always will be much higher when you do those things. And you get to have control over all those things. And you can let go of the results when you say, I was there, I was dressed right, I had the right attitude, I had the right mindset, I had a positive spirit, I stood at the door, I stood back, I turned to open, I pointed, I said the scripts, I engaged with them, and they're drunk and stupid and didn't want to talk to me. Well, guess what? That's not on me, that's on them. And I did my job 100%, and I can feel good about it. When I'd set the goals I set to see 20 houses today, walking around, I did that, and I'm doing the activities, and I can feel good about it. Because if you do, honestly, you do that, you've set yourself up for success happening. You know, it's not to say it will every time, but you've done the part you have agency over, you have control over. So that's where you can have your limiting beliefs. You can control those limiting beliefs and make them unlimiting, because you know you've done the part that you need to do to actually to allow for the results. You have to say that, to allow for the results to happen, right? So think of it that way, if that helps. And finally, you know, the last page 13 here, step 6 is be accountable, right? So, I mean, let's be honest. I'm just going to say, I'll put my hand up and say, I don't like being accountable. I just don't. It's tough. I do it for others. I have one of my coaching clients, you know, ribs me about it because I'm so good at, they actually have a whole different business that I do a lot of work coaching for them. And I hear myself help them through stuff and keep them accountable on things, and think to myself, oh my gosh, I gotta do the same exact thing for myself. And that sucks because I don't feel like doing it, and it's like, I'm like so aware. It's like, as I'm telling them, I can hear it in my own head going, you got to do the same thing, buddy. And it's challenging. Yet that's where the rubber meets the road, right? Accountability doesn't have to be a negative. Accountability is can be just like, hey, somebody can support me or encourage me. You just think of it in terms of, it's kind of like, if you think of it like, it's kind of like well, depending on how you look at it, accountability really can be kind of like the GPS checking in your roadmap. I mean, it's like when your GPS says, hey, turn around when possible. You've gone off route, basically. That's like what an accountability or coach can really be that for you, right? It's like, if without that, you're driving along, you made a left, you made a right, and pretty soon you're off in some neighborhood and you're like, oh crap, I was just sightseeing, looking at the Christmas lights, and I'm like totally off track, right? Well, that even isn't bad in of itself, but it's bad if you don't have somebody to check in. If you don't have an accountability in a good way, or have somebody that's helping you say, whoa, hey, hold on a second. Your goal was to get to Washington Square, and you're totally off the other direction now. So you're like, oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. What do I need to do to get back there? Hit the refresh on your GPS. That's what your accountability is there for, right? It's there to help you say, I mean, truly, it's there. You said in the beginning of this, these principles, you're saying, here's my strengths, here's my weaknesses, here's where I want to go. Hey, Eric, I just help keep me on track, and that's what I'm here for. I mean, that's what we do as coaches. It's not just accountability. Yet, if we are not doing that also for you, if you're not engaging in that, if you're not calling me back like 2/3 of the people in my program, then you're not getting that. You're not getting that accountability. They're avoiding the accountability because they know they haven't done what they themselves. I mean, I meet with my daughter before school every morning, and I say, what are your, how are we doing your goals for the week? What are your goals for today? And at the end of the day, my kids love it now. I at the end of the day, I go, how'd you do? How'd you do on your goals? Not my goals, by the way. And it's so hard for me not to make her. I want to give her goals because I'm like, no, this would be your goal. This would be your goal. And like, but she's in 9th grade and she doesn't need me telling her goals. So I try to encourage her and let her figure out, okay, how's that? But what is it you want out of that? What do you want out of this class or this workout or whatever it is, right? And just asking her how she doing, what are your, or in the beginning of the day, I say, what are your goals and whatever, we talk through some of that. And then I say, okay, what are the things that are going to stand in the way of those goals? What are the things that are going to what are the challenges you're going to have that are make it hard? Oh, well, then this and this. Okay. So what can you do about that? Oh, I could do this and this. And at the end of the day, I go, how'd you do on that? How'd you do it? Putting your phone away or turning it off so that you're not getting the little, all her friends like dinging her all the way through math. And then she's not paying attention to math. And then she doesn't understand math. And I'm like, okay, well, so what can you do about that? I mean, right. That's accountability, but I'm helping her achieve. She wants to understand math. She doesn't want to not have an A in math, but if she's just left to her own devices, like all the rest of us, it's like, we don't always just see and self-reflect and how would I say, like, we don't always hold ourselves accountable to the very things that we know we want to do and we are important to, we know are important, right? So anyway, really part of this whole, Ignite series and all really us as coaches is here to try to help you guys. So any thoughts, questions on the 6 personal perspectives? Now that you guys can all say, when I say, anybody heard of the 6 personal perspectives, you can all raise your hand and say, why, yes, the last hour was all about that. Any thoughts on that while we're?
I think it's good basis to start off your real estate career too, just giving yourself goals and being able to look at it all and get the action plan going and knowing what you got to do.
For sure.
I was going to say something too. I was going to say it was totally, I ended up getting a client really quickly after I got my license. That was a family member. And it was literally like within the first week, And so I had just been starting to take the classes and really felt like I didn't know what I was doing very much. And I was terrified, mostly because I didn't know how to like write the contracts, like what we were talking about. And I will say I had two kind of happen really quickly like that. And I'm so grateful like to just jump in, or that's kind of like what I would encourage is like everybody feels like that at the beginning. But I learned so much from that like immersion that I feel like if I would have just been like, oh, I need all the classes, which is what I did want to do like initially, then
Yeah.
it just would have taken me much longer time to get there, you know, than just kind of jumping in and having to learn and
Well,
reaching
you're
out to
not gonna
myself,
you're
you
not
know.
gonna learn things if you're not experiencing them. Like they can't show everything in a book, you know.
Right.
Not every single
Right.
experience can be written down. So that's always been the best way for me too, is just jump in and do it.
I mean, I was terrified, but yeah, it was the best way for sure.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's, you're absolutely right. Both of you guys, there's, as you all know, there's plenty of times in life where just jumping in is what you have to do, and you do learn better. Obviously, there's times when, from a safety and prudence standpoint, it's better to have some knowledge before you jump in. But we're not talking about saving the world here or flying a space shuttle. We're talking about real estate. So you guys, you can get help along the way and the stuff, and just jump in and do it, and don't let that limiting belief, any aspect of this, truly you can learn on the fly. And in fact, there's kind of there's like what I call a phrase or whatever, saying we talk about, which is called red light, green light. And red light, green light it's kind of like jump in, do it, and either you say, well, that works, or it doesn't, and you red light or green light it and you move on. And so you can do that, like you can jump in and do different, let's say you're using different script, different like little dialogue, you kind of tried a couple different ways, that didn't work, I'm going to shift and do it different. I tried knocking on doors at night, didn't work, I'm going to do it in the morning. I mean, whatever. I tried this ad campaign, I kind of ran this, that didn't, I tried this, or I paid for some leads here or paid for some leads there. You just red light, green light, like, hey, that's working, green light, okay, I'm going to keep doing that. And part of that, and why I say that is, as you're learning, you can be doing that. You can be like, okay, where do I, like, okay, red, like maybe I need to yellow light that one, and I need to figure out how I need to make that better, and then do it, and then go back out and do it again, and so you can learn on the fly. And it's okay to know that everything's not going to be a green light, everything's not going to be a home run the minute you go out and do it. And the reality is, you may do something that worked 6 months ago, and then you may have to adjust because the market has adjusted, or the people's diet. COVID's a great example where what we were doing right before quarantine, we had to, all these people, we had to, adjust, and, I don't overuse the word pivot because that was overused, but we had to shift what we were doing, it's this my background. In fact, shift happens. We have to keep shifting our business. And right now, particularly in, any industry truly, but in real estate, you got to be looking at and shifting what you're doing to stay with, how am I serving people where they're at? Where are they at and how do I serve them well? And it's going to change over time. It's going to change sometimes in 6 months. And that's okay. If you always wait until you think you have it perfect, and then you try to go out and do it, you're going to, by the time you think you got it together, it's changed again. Right. So just to go out, start running, and adjust your stride, that's what you need to do. So it is 2:15. Does anybody need like a couple minute breakish, or I was going to just run through some kind of basic rules. If you guys, let me do this. Let me just run through these rules, and then we'll take like a 5-minute break. Okay. So on page 14, what we're talking about here is, actually, let me do this again. So one of the things we want to talk about here, of course, when you're going through this, we want you guys to get the most out of this, get the best experience you can. I don't know, once again, this is like a homework thing. I don't know if you guys did this sort of mission, welcome to Ignite sheet and fill that out. what I would encourage you guys, and I would ask even for all whoever's teaching it, anytime you're taking one of the actual night classes, go look ahead of time, look in the material, and if there are items or things that you guys are supposed to be looking at or reading or doing ahead of time, we just ask that you guys do them, because you'll find like these personal perspectives. I know that you know, there's, I mean, yeah, anyway, there's material out there on it. Had you, like for this one here, this I apologize that but there's this one here, I'm not super familiar with what this, because they've redid this class, but there's this action reveal for the Welcome to Ignite, you know, whatever, this first series here. So one of the things we try to do is, as you go through this, it's helpful if we're just like, you know, saying, hey, what you know, what did you think of that, or what were your ahas from that? But if you haven't done any of it, then I have to basically talk through it all before I can say that. And I think for most people, it's, you know, it's basically just understanding that there's these they call it the action reveal, that your mission for prior to coming into the class, so you're kind of mentally prepared and ready to take on that segment. So what we have here, and this is part of this whole thing, on page 16, it talks about as a student of Ignite, you're expected to complete the following. So the first thing is declare your personal big why. So like I said, if you're one of my clients, we're going to do it, and I'm happy to, please reach out to me, and I want to do it with you. But for all of us, take the time and, you know, let's talk through, you know, make sure as we go through this whole thing, make sure you're really understanding what your big why is. And that's because that's truly what's going to drive you in to push through the hard things. If you're not familiar, I would encourage you to look up Simon Sinek and start with why is his, and there's a ton of material out there that he's produced, audio, video. Take some time and absorb it, because I mean, he talks a lot about businesses and businesses running from their why, running, you know, out of their why, and people don't, and this is something the reason I think it's valuable is you'll think, oh, he's talking about Apple or whoever. No, if you actually take what he's saying, you apply it to yourself as a real estate business. So remember, you're not just a realtor selling real estate. What I want you guys to be thinking of yourselves as is business owners. Okay, I want you to be thinking of, I'm building a business in this industry to sell, buy and sell, help basically serve clients is what your business is, and it through buying and selling homes. Okay, think of running yourself as a business, and if you really think of it that way, and you absorb some of the business tips along and see yourself as a business, you will find that you will be so much more successful running a business than you will, when you think of it, I don't know if this helps me sell a house. It's like, well, if you're just trying to sell a house, then tomorrow you'll be unemployed again, because you're going to just try to find another house to sell. And I don't want you guys to be doing that. I don't want you to spend your whole career being employed and unemployed every day. I want you to think of it as running a real estate business, and the actions and the tasks and the things that you do each day are the things that a business person does in order to be in the business of being a realtor, of being a business. So part of that is understanding where you're trying to go financially. I'm not super driven by money. So for me, I needed to look at my goals as it related to the tool of money that was needed to achieve those goals. So that for me, that gave me the ability to see my monetary goals from the standpoint of what's the tool I need to do this, you know, right? So that helped me a lot. And then, you know, of course, we want to be accountable to that. Like I said earlier, you got to, once we know this is our why, we got to know, okay, is, you know, at an ultimate sense, you know, is me getting out of bed and making those calls so that my son can, you know, eat tomorrow, is that important enough to me? Well, okay, it is, you know, that kind of thing, right? So sometimes it's that simple, and sometimes it's much more complex. But either way, I want you to get it in your heart and understand, and then find ways to be accountable to your big why and those goals. And then the reality is, as we're making those calls and as we're dialoguing with people, let's try to be intentional about it and be a servant and find, and again, this is where learning based, learn how to continue to plus what you're doing. Continue to improve on your dialogue. Really, I know it's going to sound weird, but record yourself. If you're not sure, use, if you're not into video, I'm going to give you a tip. There's an app called Marco Polo, and I guarantee you, find a couple friends that you're close with, and just start kicking videos back and forth between each other. You can do it with me if you want. You can practice your scripts with me. Send me a Marco Polo and just pretend like you're giving me a monologue of what you're going to say. Here's the thing, for anybody who's had any trepidation about being on video, Marco Polo is awesome because you're leaving a video and I guarantee you're going to sit there and be like, whoa, this feels weird. You're like holding your phone like, so weird. But after like whatever weeks of doing that, you're like, yeah, whatever. Hey, how's it going? Blah, 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 blah. You know, and you're used to seeing yourself and you're videoing yourself, and now you don't care. And so that will, everybody I've gotten on it, I've 1,000, my batting average is 1,000 on this. Everybody I've gotten on it to do that has said they've gotten over themselves, and now they're able to do little video chats or things that are, and those are all really good tools in our business. So that's why I encourage you to utilize whatever. That's just one way, but regardless, you want to record. So when you're making your calls, just maybe take another device or whatever, your computer, and just record yourself as you're talking to your client. Go back and listen. And if you're like, and go, oh shoot, wow, do I really sound like that? Okay, I got to adjust that. You know, how do I plus that? How do I make that better? You know, so we do script practice, all that stuff. But anyway, I'm kind of going off, but the whole point is, you're going to be successful if you look at good language, intentional language, and yeah, you'll be successful. You know, we're gonna, yeah, one of the things that the intention of this thing is to try to do some activities and things that are part of different classes. Given the Zoom environment, I find that they are hard, sometimes not as effective yet. If I can challenge you guys to do some of them outside of class, and then, you know, like basically trust and hold you accountable to that, that would be great. You know, if not, then we'll just sit here and you guys can make calls live for all of us. I mean, that works too, you know? So just try to, you know, as we kind of review these ground rules, I mean, for all these classes, remember, you want to, if at all possible, try to arrive on time. We certainly want you to be here. If, you know, if it turns out that, hang on a second, if it turns out that, you just can't be here on time, but if you get here late, you know, you're at least here, then I'd prefer you show up rather than not show up at all. But of course, you know, and you guys have been great about being present, turn your phones off, all that stuff. Just like anything, you know, right? We all know this, how you participate, how you practice is how you play. So if you aren't paying attention, then that's probably how you'll show up elsewhere, right? You know, if anything, I mean, if we have anybody that shares any confidential challenges or stories or whatever, then of course keep those confidential. And just, you know, let's just, anything we can do to support each other and have fun at it. I mean, that's, you know, the goal is to learn and grow and have it not be arduous, and hopefully have fun with it. So do you guys want a couple minutes to take a breath? How about I just give you guys like 2 minutes, take a glass of water. I could do longer if you need it. Tell me, is anybody here want longer than a couple minutes? I just want to give you guys a minute.
I'm
No?
good with
Okay.
whatever.
I mean, I know you guys can mute
That's
and do all
something you
that
need
anyway.
to do real quick.
Yeah, I'll just give you 2 minutes. I'm going to drink some water myself, and yeah, we'll just pop back on here. How about 2:28? How about that?
That's great.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Hey, Eric.
Yeah.
You mentioned before an author named Simon something. What was his last name?
Sinek, Sinik, I believe.
And it was the big Y.
Start with Y. So he's yeah, if you put in Simon Sinek, yeah, let me see here. I could.
It's okay. I'll find it. Thank you.
Sinek. Really, if you search anything related to Simon Sinek and why he's got so much stuff out there now. And all during quarantine, he was kicking out short videos and stuff over, because he had to pivot. And so instead of being an highly paid public speaker, he became a web speaker like everybody else, right? And just started sharing his passion. So there's all sorts of short stuff out there. I follow him on social media as well. Yeah. And then the one thing, the book, I just typed that in the chat also. All right, so let's jump on back into, so we've got a bunch of pages to roll through here. Let me get on our page here. So what we want to do here is so let's do this. I'm going to share screen. So just to quickly review a couple of things I want to make sure. I'm assuming anybody here, if you haven't, at least in our office, I know we send out an email that gives you instructions on this. So KW email address or some kind of a work email address. If you don't have an email address, if your email address is like prettylady5@gmail, let's talk about getting you a more professional email address, and that's all I'm going to say about that. If you haven't already, and I'll just tell you, I'm just surprised, I guess is the word I'll use. I would say the majority, when I first came on as a productivity coach and I called through everybody in our program, almost all of them had some goofball voicemail or no voicemail at all. And I could not believe it. I'm like, are you seriously in this industry trying to be a realtor? And it says you have either, I think one I think even said there's no voicemail set up. A number of them said we're just the generic, voicemail that the computer has. And then others were like, ones that were like, hey, what's up? I'm just like, have a voice. It doesn't have to be some fancy, whatever. Just say like, hey, reached Eric, please leave me a message when you have, whatever. Just so that when somebody is calling you in this business, you have to remember part of showing up professionally is just showing up as a, you can be reflective of your personality. So, it's fine. I'm not saying if your personality is, if your target audience is all your friends are skateboarders and you're a big, skate punk, great, be that. I don't care about that. But what I mean is they got to know when they call you randomly, like, I don't know who I just got, like when it just says you have reached 503, I'm like, I was like, I don't know if this is Betty, but this is Eric from the office. Do I have the right number? Like, that's what I'm thinking, So please, for the love of Pete, just have a voicemail that says your name, hey, and whatever. You can say whatever from there. I'll help you if you want help, but just, have an email that's at least your name at something or something reasonable. And then have, if you don't have business cards yet, reach out, let's figure it out. You don't have to get all out on that. That's so easy. You don't need business cards almost probably for anything right now. However, you can get them from Vistaprint pretty cheap or free. You can get ones you can print at the office. There's ways around that. So just, don't let that be a stumbling block for you either, right? And then make sure you're logging into all your stuff online and where your stuff is to, like the KW University and all these things. And then you can, of course, jump in and as it talks about here, videos that that you can start engaging in because you've logged into your KW University or your mykw.kw.com. So if you don't know how to do all those things, reach out to your office person and get up to speed on that, because that's important. And I want to give you a homework assignment to get that dialed in if you haven't already. So if any questions, reach out to me after and I can try to help you. All right, let's do this, your big why. So here we go. Know your big why and your monetary goals. So I'm pretty passionate about your why. At the end of the day, the truth really is that if you understand in your heart, like if you know in your heart the reason that you're doing something, whatever it is, what happens is when you're faced with a step to step over, a stumbling block, you slip on a piece of ice, whatever, when you know what it is, why you're trying to get to where you're trying to get to, you figure it out and you move through and you keep moving forward and it doesn't stop you. If you're sitting there, I mean, just as a simple example, you're on the sidewalk and over on the other sidewalk is your kid and, something bad's about to happen, but it's like icy and there's like mud and there's whatever between you and there, you'll figure out how to get from here to the other side of the street. You just will, because it's important enough. Your why to get over there and save them has high enough like importance to you that your subconscious, what happens is you actually allow your subconscious to solve the problems and the issues and the things that you're gonna run into between here and there. When you don't have that why, then all of a sudden, a lot of time, what happens most of the time for all of us, I guess I would say, is your focus, instead of being focused on where you're going and the importance of that in your heart, what ends up happening is you end up having your eyes down on the thing right in front of you. And then you step over that one thing and then it's like, oh, now there's something else there. And you step over that log and go, oh man, now there's a rock I got to step over. And so it goes. And that can be very defeating and it can drain your energy. But when you're like, I got to get out there, I'm on the beach and I got to get out there before the tide comes in because my toddler is sleeping, you don't really care what's between here and there. You will figure it out and you will keep scrambling and you will get through it because your brain it sees out there what it is you're moving towards and it will solve the stuff between here and there. And you'll give you the strength and momentum to push through and get past that. And I know it sounds maybe obvious when we talk about that example, like, your toddler is, you see a baby sleeping on the beach and the tide's coming in. That's an easy example on the one hand. On the other hand, it's actually just that easy for your work and your real estate. When you're saying, hey, these things are really important to me. Like if you're like, hey, I want to have X number of dollars so I can start this foundation or fund this foundation because I'm really passionate about, saving, black lampstands. And I really just want to make sure they don't go away. Your passion will drive you to the point where tomorrow when you get up and you're like, oh man, I don't feel like making 20 calls today, but you're like, but it's really important to me to set up that foundation. So you know what, I'm just going to make those calls because really what I see is every time I make these calls, I'm moving closer to having the funds to do that. Does that make sense, you guys? So is that can you get a sense of how your why makes sense. And again, Simon Sinek, I mean, this is just like the one thing, if you can truly dig deep and understand your big why for your life, or the different aspects of your life even, you will be unstoppable. And I know I'm not just blowing smoke up here. I am telling you, people who are why driven, you cannot get out, you cannot stop them, because their why is bigger than anything that you can put in front of them. And that's really where the rubber meets the road, and where the success truly happens in our business. And especially in real estate, there's going to be days when it's going to be frustrating. There's going to be days when you're going to have some egotistical agent on the other end of a deal, and you're going to be like, why do I do this? But you're like, oh, the reason I do this is in that instant, you're like, my why right now is that I'm serving my client. My client, this is their dream home, and I need to suck it up, and I need to look at what are the steps I need to go through to help them achieve this goal in this time, and knowing those whys, those big ones, those medium ones, whatever they are, is going to really drive you through. So I would encourage you to, take a minute. Well, I mean, we could take a minute right now if you want, but well, why don't we just do that? Why don't we just, as you think through, just take a minute, because I don't want you guys to not do it, but I just want you to take a minute now and say, like, if you met, well, here, let's go to page, actually, where is it? Page 20. I think it actually is a kind of a good exercise for that. It says your big future, write down like a year from now, for example, and you kind of think through like, okay, your business is thriving, your dream, your life is what you dreamed of. You think through like, okay, my clients, my family, they're really like, gosh, you're doing so well. We're proud of you. You've really, your clients just feel like you're a great professional at what you do. You're just feeling like, gosh, I've been able to help so many people, and I'm hitting all cylinders here. It's running, I'm humming along great, like imagine that. If you imagine that, and what does that really, those are all kind of parts of that, but if you imagine, what does that really mean? What's my why really? What's the with all that success, if you want to call it success, with all that success, what is it I'm actually like most happy about? And I'm on my way towards what, what's the motivation that drives me, that's driven me all along the way. Like I'm so much closer to fill in the blank. So take like a minute. In fact, actually, let's see here. Well, here you go. Yeah, you can go to page 21 and kind of be thinking through that, and just take like, I want you to just take a couple minutes, and I want you to just write down a few words, or if you have sentences, I want you to do that so that you can come back to this and free think it a little more. Or if you got answers to it, I want you to put them in right now. Let's just do that for like a couple minutes, and then because this is important, I think, for all of us truly to understand and know. All right. Would anybody be willing to share some part of something like, so it's, the questions are, what's your driving motivation, the why or goal for a career in real estate? What will achieving your goal mean for you? What ways will it change your life? What doors will it open for you? Anybody want to feel like passion, something they want to share, or share that package answer? Yeah, go for it, Jamie.
I will. My big why is so I can provide a better future for my kids, and also, you know, help people achieve the goals that they want regarding real estate, you know, buying their dream homes and stuff like that. So
So
answer all of them or just one?
Well, I'll just say, what will that do for you if you, you know, if you're
Well,
achieving
if I'm
those
making
goals?
more money, you know, I can pay for my son's college, my other kids, if they decide they want to go to college. You know, I can travel, I can pay my bills every month and not stress quite so much, and just less stress in life, I think. As far as that goes, I know real estate's stressful in itself, but
Yeah.
the home life hopefully will be a little less stressful.
Yeah, for sure. So how do you, if you kind of future cast yourself, how do you imagine how you'll feel? How do you think you'll feel when, like if you put yourself in like handful of years down the road and kids in college, and you know that you have more than enough to pay for that, how are you going to feel? What's that going to feel like?
I don't know. I never have been there, so I'm
Right.
assuming it'll be nice. It'll be a sense of freedom in a way.
Yeah, I imagine it would be, right? Knowing that you could just kind of, you like close your eyes and imagine writing that you know, that check, or that sending that payment in, and you're like, man, I got this, right? Like,
Yeah.
I
Don't even need
can
to think
totally
about it.
provide for, right?
Yep.
So put yourself in that mindset and think about how your life will be different, and the ways that, you know, the relief that you'll feel and the stress that you talked about. You know, think about that. If you just resonate on that, that's gonna, that feeling, when you are like, feel that and embrace that right now, and then when you like kind of mark that in for yourself, and then when you're having a day where people are, you just either having to do a task or something that you don't feel like doing, come back to that feeling and say, you know, that's worth it, right?
Yeah.
That feeling that I know I'll be there is worth whatever it is I'm going through right now, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Anybody else want to share anything on that for themselves?
I kind of had the same as Jamie, enjoying working with people, helping them achieve their goals and finding their dream homes.
Yeah. So tell me, Dan, so you enjoying helping people reach their goals or whatever. What is that going to mean for your heart? What does that mean for you at the end of the year? What is that feeling you're feeling?
Well, I think with anybody, you know, you get happiness with giving other people happiness. Everybody likes to help people as much as they can, and I believe that brings yourself happiness too.
So look, I'm just going to put you on the spot. So let me ask you a question then. Are you in a place where you're financially independent and you're just doing this kind of work out of the kindness of your heart because you want to help people with their homes?
No, definitely not.
Okay. So there's an aspect of you, of the, you know, that you are making an income, right? I mean, right. So there's a part of that in there that affects your own personal life. So what's like, what is it for you personally that, you know, at the end of the month or the end of the year or the end of 5 years that you are looking at and seeing as a goal or as a dream or something? What is that for you?
I would say just kind of, I mean, I'm not looking to be a multimillionaire, but just the stress of, you know, not having to worry about the month-to-month lifestyle. Having a little bit in the savings is always nice.
Mm-hmm. So at the end of the year, knowing that you've got more in your account and you've got bills to pay, how would that feel?
Definitely a stress reliever.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any like bigger kind of like life or family, you know, I use their goals, but I mean, or things that you're working towards, or
Same thing, kids. I have kids, so college, if they're wanting to go to college, vehicles for them so they can get around, and same thing, they don't have to stress, how am I going to get to school, or how am I going to get to this practice when they're in high school. It kind of takes away a little bit of stress from them.
Yeah, for sure. So you've got, as you're looking out, you see these different, call them expenses. You see these different things that you want to provide for your family that are going to require some sort of, this tool that's called money, right? So what I would say is, and this is probably a good thing to, if we look at page 23, what I would recommend is that you guys all jump down to 23 and say, okay, what is it that, and in fact, I'm gonna just go out and say, well, for those of us that talked about providing college, providing something for your kids down the road, I want you to look at look at the date for that and say, hey, I've got kids that are going to be in college 3 years from now, 8 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever it is. I want you to write those things down, those big things. And I want you to put some numbers next to them. And then I want you to break those, like know those big ones at the very least. And then I want you to break those down between the number of years, or divide them by the number of years. And actually, the truth is you'll probably have something 2 years from now, like might be paying off debt, it might be whatever, but I want you to take those and divide them back to where you can see that this, on page 23, where it talks, what is your annual monetary goal, where you can see that that number actually relates to what it is you want, where it is you're trying to go. If you're trying to go in this certain direction and get to a certain place financially, right, that you actually feel, and the truth is it's usually not linear. It's going to be one of those where this first year you'll have less, you'll make less than you would maybe the next year, and then the next year you kind of build on it, right? So if you were to at the very least look at your big picture goals, your longer term financial goals, and then work that backwards, I want you to have a good sense of that for yourself, at least right now today. I want you to put some number in there that makes some sense to you. Don't just stick a number in there because 100 sounds good or because 50 sounds good. I want you to write a number that means something in hard dollars, okay? Means something to your life. And remember, it's halfway through January. So we're already, by the time you get up and going, you pretty much have missed the first quarter, right? So let's just be honest here. So really what we're talking about for the rest of this year is like just 3 out of the 4 quarters of the year. If you want to just be honest about it. For you to get to that, the money that you're talking about making in the next 9 months, or it's basically before the end of the year, 9 months worth of income. Now it doesn't mean you should sell yourself short, but realize that's what you're dividing it by. Okay. So write that in there and then own that. Right. And then what we'll do is we'll move down here and we'll write in an average sale price. So for example, here, as you've got that number figured out, the example, we'll just go through the examples because that's pretty straightforward. And I want you to this is kind of helping you set your goals. So your gross commission is what we call GCI, your gross commission income. That's the amount of revenue that comes in. Okay. That's not what you make. What you got to keep in mind is you don't make that. So at the very, very least, you pay taxes. Okay. You right off the bat, you're just going to pay some amount on taxes. So whatever you have money coming in, you're paying taxes on. We all have basically office part, the investment of all of what we're doing here and coaching and all the stuff you're doing. There's an aspect of however much you make that goes towards that. Even myself, I mean, my caps, and although our office, we just adjusted the cap down. So that's kind of nice. On this example here on page 24, it talks about capped at 20,000. Our cap in our office is not that high anymore. So the royalty is the same though. But anyway, so what you want to kind of look at is you want to say, okay, if I need to make whatever it is you said you wanted to make for the year. If you want to make 70,000 for the, by the end of this year, then you got to roll down here and you say, well, on page 25, you can see what does it take to actually get to that amount, right? Well, if you look at your net goal, let's say, well, they used 100,000, it's easy numbers, right? So let's say you said, I want to make 100,000. Well, you have your market center cap 23. Well, it's going to be a little less than that in our market center. So, well, actually, for you guys in the coaching program, it is, well, because there's a market center cap and then there's the coaching program that you're also doing. So, well, regardless, you use that number, you figure out, you got to add that back in, right? And then what's your average for a transaction? Well, in our market right now, you can figure average sale price is higher than this, but you got to look at your realistic, what you're probably selling into, and you got to adjust. But if you were to estimate low, which is always the best way to go on these, estimate probably a 450 sale price, maybe 500 would be a little bit higher, but you just figure out your average, basically your average commission, and you would always want to figure 2.5% at the most right now as an average commission. I would not ever figure it any higher than that, because truly right now we're seeing downward pressure on commissions, as well as if you end up with a listing and you end up having to take it for a little less or whatever. Anyway, you always want to adjust down and average up so that you're not ending up short. You're trying to figure out, oh, I figured I only needed to sell 16 houses this year, and truly you needed to sell 20. That's not really helpful. So what you want to do is you want to take that annual goal, and then of course the cap. This is an overly simplified. I have actually a spreadsheet that I use to help people work through this on a little more detailed. But for sake of the conversation, let's just figure whatever your goal is, your cap. That's a hard one. I think it's going to be like, oh, actually, what we can do here is here's what we'll do. I want you to do your number. I want you to do your cap at whatever. If you know the cap, I think it's, anybody actually know what the cap is right now? Isn't it all the same across all of our brokerages? Something like 15 or?
It's all the same now, isn't it?
Yeah, what is it? It's like,
Is it 10 or 12 or?
12 plus the 3,000, I think, isn't it?
the royalties is always 3,000, but the other cap, I want to say is,
I think it's
Not
12,000.
18.
Was 18.
Oh, it was 18. Here, I can look real quick, see if they updated it in command.
well, let's say we put in there, like the 3,000 royalty
Cap.
plus.
It still shows 18 in the command, because I just did one today. And
Look at you go looking it up. Well, yeah, let's say it's 15 total. Let's just say that. And then your average commission per transaction. So what I want you guys to, for sake of your number, I want you to take 2.5% and actually use like, well, let's use just, you think here. Well, let's use 2% as a max commission percentage, and then use an average sale price of, so if you did, let's say your average sale price is, let's say it's 400. Anybody here know that they're definitely selling most all their houses at more than 400? Anybody? Let's use
it's high
400
for our
times.
area.
Yeah, is that right for your area? Okay.
It's kind of, we're like more like, yeah, I guess 3 to 5, but closer to
Oh, okay.
3
Well,
to 4.
we could do, I mean, you got to do what you think you would end up doing. So, well, let's just do it. Let's do 400 for now. So 400 times 2%, that's whatever that is. What's 400 times 2%?
8,000.
Okay, yeah, so 8,000. So we got whatever your goal is, let's call the cap 15. so your goal, so the your net GCI goal, you add the cap to that, so that's your line C, GCI plus AB, and then D would be 8,000, let's say, and then basically you take, as it says here, you take whatever's on line C and divide it by your 8,000, and that'll give you a number of transactions. So in this example above, of course, it said 100,000, 23, so 123, averaging 6,000 per deal. That's 21 transactions to get to that, right? It's important to at least come up with that number. Whatever number you come up with, I want you to round that up. So if it was like 20, if you had like 15.2, just round it up to 16, and then put that, as it says here, you want to keep that in the front of your mind all the time, that that's how many transactions I need to do per year to try to get to that. Now remember that if you're trying to do, let's say you're trying to do, well, here's a really good example. Let's say you're trying to do 24 transactions in a year. So that's how many per month, right? That's 2 per month. Well, if you didn't get 2 the first month, now you have to get 2 per month plus the 2 that you missed that first month. So you're gonna, typically what most agents do is they front end load their goals as they're going into the year, and actually you work on it in the months prior. So like I was saying, now really the business you're working on right now and your lead generation work that you're doing now is for second quarter. Honestly, you're really moving into second quarter results. Because if you were to get a buyer right now and you go out shopping and then you got to put offers in, and then by the time it closes and you see any money from that, you're talking second quarter, So you want to be thinking, if your goal, whatever that is, you want to divide that by 9 months, and you want to be hitting that by right now, you want to be working towards that. And what I always recommend is however many months you're talking. So if we're talking about a year, if you're talking about 12 months in a year, I want you to take off 2 months, so that you're allowing for, basically you're allowing for stuff to not happen, if you will, and you're also allowing yourself vacation opportunity to have time off somewhere in there. So if you actually divide whatever income number by 10 months and you work towards that 10 months, the chances of you actually reaching it at the end of the year are much greater than it is if you're like 12 months and then you miss a month and now you're like scrambling to try to catch up with your goal, right? Does that make sense? And why it makes sense to round up and then do that, use 10 months, and basically you got to game yourself into knowing. So on page 27, it goes into the commitment. We talked about the commitment to daily lead generation, the thing that will make you successful as an agent, right? Well, here's the thing, right? So you have to commit to putting in the time, on those tasks, whatever those tasks that you decide, your strategy for generating leads. There's all kinds of different ways you can do it, but you got to commit to putting in the time over time on task over time. If you don't do that, it just won't happen. It's simple. It's really, as it puts it here, you got to do, the thing is the appointments and, showing houses and doing those things. Often though, you will make time for those most people do. And if you get to a time blocking issue where you're just so busy, you're having trouble with that stuff, we can coach you to that. But right now, what you got to do, and what I'm challenging each one of you guys to do, is to focus on blocking out, giving yourself, those couple hours, at least a couple hours a day, where you're focused on some activities that are lead generating, writing notes, follow up, emails, making calls to people, checking in, doing intentional social media posts, things like activities that you've sketched out that that doing X number of hours of that each day consistently, if we talked about in the very beginning, that consistency, that's what's going to make the difference. It's when you miss days and don't do it, and then it's like that consistency that was talked about early on, like when you miss that consistency of lead generation, that's where you start to fall down, where we all do, not just you, we all do. So if you keep in mind that what you do today is income typically in 3 months, then that helps. It'll help you kind of be thinking ahead about, if I need to pay some bills in like 4 months from now, I got to be on it right now to even have a chance of that happening typically. Right. So that's why we, like, even in real estate, we talk about getting into real estate, having 6 months worth of expenses. And truly it's better to have a year, because at least 6 months saved up, because it's, the challenge is that you need to figure out how to operate while it takes, at the very best, you had your friend and your sister's buddy, whatever, hire you right out of the gate. You're still 60 days from a paycheck at best. That's with somebody that's writing on a house today, or ish today, so just keep that in mind. You want to budget that out, look at the amount of time you're putting in to achieve those X number of transactions per year that you're trying to get to. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions on that? Does everybody have their everybody get a number in there so they have a sense of what they're working towards? I want you guys to leave here today with at least have a number and have a sense of the transaction goals. And if you're confused, anybody here confused and want to dig in on this and spend some more time on it, one-on-one or something? Okay. Well, reach out to me or your coach if you have a coach in your office, and we will help you. I actually have a Excel spreadsheet where we can plug in a lot more numbers and come up with, a better idea of this. But just keep in mind, just to remind you, if you want to pay bills with $80,000 at the end of the year, you need to make, so in your case, your gross commission income, so the commission that is calculated off the sale price that comes into the office, okay, from the title company, for all of you guys, pretty much, I would say this, for all of you guys, think of it in terms of this first year, think of it in terms of about double. So if you need 80,000 at the end of the year, your GCI has to be closer to like 160. Okay. So think of it that way. Like, if I'm not producing about 150 to 160 in GCI, my after taxes, after phone by phone bill, after the cost of this and that I'm going to spend money on, after the photos on that listing and this and all these other expenses that you'll have in this, paying PMAR and paying RMLS every other month, 3 months, all those expenses and those things that you need to put in, plus Market Center, plus the coaching, plus all the rest of the stuff that you deal with. It's a really nice, simple way to just be thinking of it your first year. It's basically double whatever you think you need to make it. Like, if you needed, 4,000 a month minimum to live off of, and you multiply that times, well, for right now, it's going to be 9 months to the end of the year to truly what you're going to be able to make money, then double whatever that number is for your GCI goal. That's what it's got to be. All right. That's truly what you need your GCI to be, if you're going to not end up short. I'm just saying. So if you look at the financial models for a real estate business, right? So when people are running a team, or I'm sure Troy he may know his numbers. If you look at your numbers, you will see that in a bigger team, that team owner or whatever, if they make 30%, so just 30%, if they make 30% at the end of the year, that's pretty good. Just to give you an idea. So the numbers are bigger than this, but in this case, let's say they made $100,000, they kept 30 of that. So that's what it takes to run a bigger business. As a brand new agent, keeping 50% of what you made in your first year would be a win. I want you to just get that in your head and in your heart. That's a win. If you're running a really lean, mean machine, we have a couple examples in our office. If you can get up to where you're making like 60% or more, 70% of what your GCI is, well, it's never going to be that much because you have taxes, truly. So if you back that out, right away you're making whatever tax bracket you're in, but you're more than likely only making 65% or 70% anyway, right? But 50% is pretty good. Just so you can kind of wrap your head around that. I don't want to discourage you yet. I would rather be honest with you and be truthful with you about the numbers and have you get to the end of the year and have it turn out a little bit better than you thought, than have you get to the end of the year and say, holy crap, I only got half of what I need. I wish somebody had told me. You know what I'm saying? So any questions on that? Okay, so we'll jump to page 29 and talks about lead generation funnel. So when you think of lead generation, they use this funnel. I want you guys to really, I want you to really get your head wrapped around this idea of a funnel, because it truly is, it is really the best picture of what it looks like to not just in real estate, but in really any business that requires bringing it in. When you have a lead for business, which is like hey, here's somebody I know of, or hey, you're selling a software. Let's say you're selling software. You have a lead. Somebody wants to maybe buy this, or if you're even in business to business, B2B, you have a lead that needs to convert into actually being a piece of business. That's just the way it works. In real estate, again, I just want to be honest with you guys. If you guys haven't noticed right now, especially, it is a pretty noisy world we live in, right? Wouldn't you agree? It's a pretty noisy world. There is marketing and there's people out there, just all kinds of messaging going out there about all sorts of things. But in particular, real estate related, it is a noisy world. If you are going to capture, so we're quick top of funnel, you hear people talk about, you're trying to find a way, it's like a vacuum cleaner. You're trying to suck people into this funnel and get them to drop in one way or the other. And that's how you're going to get an at bat. I mean, you got to, I'm not a baseball guy, but let's say, you can't hit a run or hit a home run or anything unless the ball actually gets pitched, right? You got to get people, you got to have an opportunity to actually try. And with this noisy world, the game is like this lead generation world is to get people coming into that funnel. And the more you have coming in, the more opportunities you have to convert that, because not everybody's going to say yes. Early on, you're going to get some wins. You're going to have the first 4 friends and family you talk to, all say, yes, I'll let you list my house or whatever. Maybe, but at some point you're going to run into, even good agents right now, if you watch masterminds and stuff on this, even in our office, good agents say, hey, I'm having to compete. I'm one of the best in town, and I'm having to go out and compete with the other couple people in town that are good, right? I mean, that's just how it is. And only one of them is going to come out of that with a listing agreement. It's just how it is. So it is part of this world that we're in now. The better you cement those relationships, the better you build rapport with people. And I don't want to go off track too much here, but at the end of the day, you guys as professionals, the better you connect with people, the better you are being authentic with them, the better you're showing up in their life in a way that brings value, the better chance that you've already cemented the most important aspect of that relationship, that trust component. So when you've done that well on the front end through all the things that you do to provide value and connect and relate to people, when you do that well, then the conversion to pull through the funnel and at the time when they are at a point of where they're going to do a real estate transaction, that becomes so much easier. And it's like you've greased your funnel and they just come right through and they're already committed to you. The more you are out there just trying to find cold calling and trying to find basically business that has no connection to you, like door knocking or other things, that's going to be real top of funnel. There's no rapport there. And your goal is to try to basically build that rapport and get that to where you've now captured them and they now know who you are and all that. So does that make sense? You guys kind of get all that, right? So one of the things we know for sure is you're going to have to be able to talk to people as part of this industry, right? You can do you can do classes, you can do content online. Some people do that. Following up with people that you hear about is going to be part of your business. So truly, you just have to remember that when we talk about, like on page 30, it talks about calling every session. I won't go into that today with you guys. I'm going to give you a pass on it, but you need to know that you need to get out there and make some phone calls. And I'm not saying you have to get out there and be Captain Salesy. No, I don't. In fact, I don't believe that that's a good way to do it. What I would want you to do and challenge you to do is to build rapport with people, build relationships with people. At the appropriate time, you could certainly ask for business. But like I said before, the stickiness of that, the effectiveness of that is so much better when you have taken the time to invest in and pour into people. You could, simple scripts right now could just be reaching out and checking in to saying, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while, Sam. You know, it's been I just check in to see how things are going. I know lots of people are getting the Rona. You know, are you okay? Have you gotten it? I mean, there you go. There's your script to call pretty much anybody in your database. You could use that script, you know, just check in with them, right? And just show that you care is the point, right? You're reaching out saying, hey, I care. I'm wondering how you're doing. That's it. You know, anything I can do for you, just offer that up. That stickiness builds trust. You drop those little bits of trust and rapport building with people. Well, now at the right time, when you say, when you're having a conversation and they say, hey, how's the market, or what's going on with you? And you say, well, you know, I got into real estate. Or you say, most of the time people are going to say, hey, what's going on with the market these days? And you're going to go, wow, it's, you know, it's amazing. You know, here's what's happening, you know? And so now you can say, yeah, so what do you mean? How do you like your house? It's a pretty cool house. I mean, are you going to stay there the rest of your life? And they say, oh, no, I mean, at some point I'll move. Oh, good. Okay. You know, so anyway, those are, you can find right now, I just say, you know, come from that contribution, just reach out, care about people. And if the conversation comes up naturally, great. If not, don't bring it up. Just reach out to them another time, you know, for now. So any questions on that? Just got to build that funnel. You got to be bringing stuff in, right? Otherwise it doesn't happen. So page 31. So as you know, when you're thinking about your, the things that are going to make you successful, the consistent lead generation all the time, you know, there's a word we call, it's the H word, right? Habits. So what we know, there's a book called Tiny Habits, great book. There's looking over because I think it's, I can't quite see it. It's in my reading spot. Atomic Habits, that's a good one also. I'll admit, I struggle with certain habits that I know I would do better if I did better. I mean, if I was more habitual about it. That's just the reality of life, right? And I'm feeling convicted recently again to really be looking at what are key habits. And we talk about that, the one thing, you know, well, the one thing, for a lot of times, the one thing in terms of a habit, there might be one key habit that if I put that in place, it causes success. It causes the momentum of success to happen in all the other areas of my life. And so looking for those key things. The book Tiny Habits, one of the interesting things he talks about is like, I think the one example he says is, he's like, I'm trying to remember to take my vitamins. So he thinks about tiny habits that build on other habits that make it successful. So then I forget if he like put the vitamins next to his water on his desk, and now he knows he'll be at his desk and he knows he'll look over and he'll see him, and now he takes his vitamins, because you sort of trick yourself, you gamify the tiny little habits that you know, sometimes you habit stack. So you stack a habit on top of something else that you know you'll do. You know, there's lots of things we do in the morning or in the bathroom that are people use, they habit stack something on top of that. Like, here's a good example. If you wear a smartwatch and you're like, I always forget to charge the thing. Well, how about you put the charger right there next to the mirror, right when you're about to get in the shower, you pop your watch off, you put it on the charger, you take a shower, you get back, it's charged. If you did that every single day, every time you jumped in the shower, you wouldn't need to remember to charge your watch because it would be charged. It's just a simple habit. But if your charger is over by your bed or by your desk or someplace else, you're not going to remember that, because now you gotta remember the habit of walking over there when you think your watch is low, but when you don't think you need it, or when you're, you know, right, that just doesn't work. So figure out ways you can stack habits. You need to be in the habit of lead generation. So you got to figure out, look for a way that you schedule out your day. We use time block, that these daily activities, they call your 4 activity on page 31. It says your 4 activities daily, 10-4. So the 10 is your habit is saying, I'm going to figure out a way to reach these 10. So I'm going to somehow connect with 10 people, write 10 notes, preview 10 homes, add 10 new contacts. It sounds daunting, and I'll tell you, it can feel that way at times. Yet, here's the thing: if you stack that habit, I guarantee you will be more successful than most agents around you if you simply do that. Even if you took all those 10s and put them in habit and said 5, because you've got a job you're doing right now or something else, pick the number and just do it. If you did 2 new contacts and 2 people in your database and 2 notes and 2 homes you previewed, then just do that. I mean, my challenge to you is do that number and tell yourself, I am not going to let myself down. I'm gonna do, and guess what? If you have a day when you can't, then the word is, if you erase, you must replace. So if your day today was, hey, so like for me today, right? I'm teaching this class today. We're all sitting in this class today. I have things right after this. So I'm like, well, shoot, I didn't get my notes done today. So then what I'm doing is like, okay, I'm going to put my notes for today onto tomorrow, and I'm going to or spread them out over the next 2 days. And I'm still going to achieve my weekly activity because I'm committed to making sure that happens. So if I'm going to erase it from today, I need to replace it and put it somewhere else. Erase it off my schedule. I need to put it somewhere else. If you get that in your head, if I erase, I must replace. So put it, if it's not on your calendar, I don't know if you guys ever heard this. If it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. So put it on your calendar. I want you guys, I would challenge you right now. In fact, let me look at this. I want you to take 30 seconds. I want you to look at your calendar, and I want you to figure out over the rest of this week, just like circle it, write, take a piece of paper, tell yourself, I want you to actually write it so that you can have that mind body feedback when you're going to sit down and knock out some of those things or all those things. Like, I'm going to do this at 10 o'clock tomorrow. I'm going to do that at Friday at, whatever it is, that kind of thing. I want you to write that down. Just take like 20 seconds right now. Write it down really quick. Doesn't have to be perfect, but doing so will ensure you have a better chance. So take like 20 seconds, write it down, but when you're going to do those things each day. So I wanted to go up snowboarding. And when I look at my calendar, I'm kind of doing that right now mentally, doing the same thing as you guys. I'm looking at it, and aside from the fact that the weather's not super great for going up, so I may just skip snowboarding in lieu of having to push some of my lead generation activities into another day. I'd rather not have the pain of that. So I may just skip snowboarding altogether because it's going to be crappy and slushy and not nice up there. It's too warm. But if I was to go tomorrow afternoon, then all of my stuff I have to push onto Friday. And so I was just looking at my Friday going, okay, if I do that, where am I going to make up for it on Friday? Because I can't just not do it, right? I got to look at where I'm going to still get done. I was just looking at my stack of notes over there and thinking, crap, I'm going to have to figure out where I'm going to replace that. And I'm like, shoot, maybe I should just do them tonight, because otherwise I'm going to get behind. So it helps to see it if you look at your calendar and just mentally tell yourself, okay, I'm doing this then, I'm doing that then, I'm taking this time to do whatever it is I wanted to do. I'm at work, like during the day on these days. So, right. You guys got that? Right. If you have any questions on these activities, let us know. Do you have any questions? Does anybody have any questions on that? I'm going to move through it, but if you're not certain about the follow-up or the 10-4, let me know right now. I can take a second to talk about it more if you want. Okay, were you guys on the first, let's see. No, actually, I don't know if all of you were on the first day, because I remember I was. There's this thing called the success tracker, page 34. It's in your KW login. It's up. I was just going to see if I apologize. I don't think I can pull it up real quick. But she went through it on the first day, and that's what I'm saying. I don't want to repeat that because she went through how to do it, how to enter your stuff. It's for your benefit. Go onto the daily104.com. You log in, it's right there. The success tracker is there. Let's see here. Looks like this. So it's really helpful, honestly, because if you're trying to just hold yourself accountable, and have a visual, you know, we all have some aspect of how we learn better. Some of us are, and a lot of people in this industry tend to have some visual part of the orientation, their visual motivation of visual learners. So as I'm sharing here, as you can see, the daily Ignite tracker, just go on there and fill it in. If you're totally unsure how to do this, please reach out to me or your coach. And I would ask that you reach out within the next day and get this figured out so that you know how to do it. It's super easy. Ask somebody in your market center. If you don't, ask one of us coaches. I'm just going to ask you guys to do it within the next 24 hours. Get on there and at least understand that, because it's a super easy, great tool, and I think it will benefit you to have that. So it's for your, as I say, it's for your benefit, really. We're not going to go into the language of sales right now. I will spend a few minutes though and talk about the value of understanding. So we use the word scripts. Does anybody like the word scripts here? I don't. So I'm just going to say that. Does the word script sound like, what does it sound like to you? Anybody? Is that a positive word for you, or is that?
It just sounds like something we have to rehearse.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, the thing is about scripts is I personally don't like those words, but I think of when I hear the word script, I convert it to intentional dialogue or purposeful dialogues, right? If you're gonna show up and be of value to people, I mean, wouldn't you want to be in dialogue with somebody and have it be like good for them, right? You don't want it to be like, it's not about you, right? It's not about like you serving yourself, right? You want to be thinking of these intentional dialogue, these strings of conversation. You want to be thinking of it as, my goal is to connect with people, to hear them, to hear what's important to them, to hear their heart and speak to that. That's how you're going to, in sales, that's how you're going to really succeed. If you're simply like, I've got to get a script out and I'm just going to deliver the script and I don't really care, you're going to be out of, I don't know if you guys have heard the word rapport, but rapport is this idea of connection with people. We all do it. You've done it your whole life, whether you know it or not. When you're connecting with people, you know it. When you know you're in rapport, that means you're vibing with somebody. You know, you're talking. You guys are on the same page. You're finishing each other's sentences at kind of the ultimate level, right? And I think you guys could also think back to times when you've been out of rapport and you're like, man, me and this other person are just not. We're not communicating. Like I'm saying tomato, they hear tomato, and like I don't know what the heck's going on here, right? So you've all had that happen. Well, you can tweak, you can modify, you can try to adjust in what you're saying and how you say it to try to be in rapport with somebody. But ultimately, you want to have your listening ears on and you want to be listening to what they're saying. So when you have a script, as we call it, the purpose of script, as it says here on page 36, a great script is 100% customer oriented and it benefits them, the customer, throughout the entire conversation. So sometimes you'll hear a sense of like a sentence or an intentional dialogue that you're reading and you're going, I don't want to say it that way. There are times when things there's scripts that I think are off, but for the sake of the benefit of thing, there are, if you're really working from a good trained kind of dialogue, like opportunity for dialogue, remember that often there's all sorts of embedded rhythms in the conversation, in the script. And I would encourage you to understand, to say them to the extent, to basically say them as is. And if you really, really think there's something off about it, talk to somebody about it who knows, who understands, like, I mean, I'm really good for that. And talk through it. And a lot of times what you'll find is that the rhythm of it, if it may sound uncomfortable to you because it's a different way of communicating. It's a different way of leading people. So sometimes there's words and ways that we put stuff in there that we the way that we put scripts or in dialogue chains together that connects with people. It creates a certain momentum, or it causes them to you to connect with them in a way that might be different than what you're used to. But they're always supposed to be customer oriented. You should not be self-focused, and you should be delivering them and understanding them. And as Thornton actually said, you should be digesting and knowing them like you memorize them, right? Such that you can naturally have that dialogue now, and not have it be canned, not have it feel like it's because you've come to really digest. Oh, I need to ask this person first. I need to affirm this. I need to give them, instead of saying, do you want to meet? Instead of using that script, use more of a script of like, would you prefer to get together? Would you prefer to meet on Tuesday at 6 or Wednesday at 5? You realize that, well, that's an intentional dialogue, giving them an option. Like, embedded in there is you're not just asking them a yes or no question. You're embedding the whole idea of giving them 2 options, because psychologically people want options, and all those things. You're like, oh, I never thought of that. All I was trying to do is ask them if they want to meet. It's like, well, there's different ways to ask. There's ways to ask that are actually going to cause you to not only have the customer feel better because you just gave them 2 choices, and they feel so much better now about the choices because they're making the choice, because now it's on them and they feel totally better. And now you're in rapport, and now you actually got the outcome you're looking for, right? So that's just a really simple kind of example of where what you naturally might do, just asking somebody something, might be so much more successful if you employ scripts, you employ intentional dialogues, and learn what those are all about. So there are tons of them, and there are lots of, I'm a Tom Ferry fan. I think he's got a lot of great intentional kind of dialogues. We in Keller Williams have all sorts of great stuff out there. I just encourage you guys. We do in our office. In fact, you can actually tune in from any office. I believe that Matt is still doing script practice. Just tune in and listen if you can in the morning. And if you can't, you gotta find a way to practice speaking, right? Because if you don't practice, you don't. I mean, nobody goes out and plays the game for the first time in the game. They always practice, right? And it's so hard. And I will tell you, I struggle with it. But the people who do it well have walked through their listing presentation. They've walked through their conversation with people. They've joked back and forth with other agents about, like, oh, I'm not sure I'm ready. And that's like, that's somebody, oh, I'm going to wait till the market cools. Well, now just have a pretend dialogue with somebody and use scripts, use intentional dialogues to ask the right questions, to really care about the person, get to know what's going on with them and all these things. It's just in being intentional. It's being intentional about finding out what's really going on with people, and how you can help them. You can connect with them better and be positioned to be in the right place in the relationship, to be in the right place in the relationship, so that when they're ready, you're a trusted advisor, you're a trusted person in their world. And if you do that if you use these scripts, you will much more quickly get to that point than if you just leave it up to your own sort of devices, so to speak. So there's obviously read them out loud, read them over. I said earlier, read them over Marco Polo. Yeah, I would love to assign, if I was waving my wand, I would love to assign all of you guys to get on Marco Polo and start sending me Marcos, and we'll just we'll kick them back and forth until you are like 100% confident with video, because you got to do it. Video is important, and using script practice over video is a great way to see how you relate, how you talk, so read them, repeat them, read it again, say it out loud, say it to others, and get it to where you kind of understand it. That's at the end of the day, that's what it is. Let's see here. I mean, we can go through on page 43. I'm gonna let you guys off the hook on these unless anybody wants to practice this stuff. I love going through scripts and helping people understand what the psychology or the is behind it. If in fact, if you guys want to for a minute, I'm happy to do that, but you tell me. This is your class. We have a few other things to go through. So what do you guys want for the next half hour? Do you want me to spend a couple minutes on that before we go on, or are you good with?
Yeah, spend minutes on it. What page you say? 33?
Let's see here. That is on page. I think I just scrolled past
40,
43.
43.
Sorry.
43.
I'm following on the computer here, so sorry. Got behind.
Yeah, so on 40, yeah, 43.
Yep.
Well, I'll be honest, some of these I'm not super jazzed about.
Yeah, they're not real personable, are they?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just be really honest.
They sound like scripts.
They do. And I know I'm supposed to be as an instructor, but here's the thing, you guys. You can. So one of the things, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about these scripts. I'm going to kind of break them down. So one of the things, obviously you connect with somebody. If you don't know them, you're saying hi, hey, what's up, what's going on. The first thing on these is says, do you have a moment? So that the important thing about that, you have to remember, by asking somebody, like it's always a good idea to connect and ask somebody, if you're going to talk to them, is this a good time? Hey, this is a good time. Do you have a minute? Whatever. I think it is, I know from like psychologically, it's a good idea to ask that. If you're just calling to shoot the breeze, it's still not a bad idea to bring that up, right? You're just understanding that you respect their time and you respect that you have called them out of the blue, right? So, that's something I just wanted to note in there. That's embedded in all those, because you're asking that question. It's just important. It's a good way to start the conversation. I don't know, the sharing some exciting news. That's a hard one, because I think for some people that works for them. And there's nothing wrong with it. If you see yourself saying that, there's nothing wrong with it at all. But it's important to know yourself, I guess. If you want to introduce yourself that you are getting new to real estate, like just use your natural words, but just say, hey, I wanted to share with you, and then use your own words to say, like, I don't know if you heard, but I got into real estate, I decided to become a realtor. Oh, cool. Who are you with? And I'm with Keller Williams Realty. And so what you can do, on page 43, the right side says, like, I'd like to share my app with you. The challenge I have with these is I don't feel like you've earned the rapport with most of the people you would call out of the blue to do that. I don't feel like that's you're out of balance in there, right? And that's the challenge. What I learned, and I think where this should be updated probably, is what we've learned because of the times we're in right now. And like I said earlier, a better way you could probably approach people right now is to reach out and just connect and be empathetic to their life, right? Just connect with them. Hey, are you guys doing okay? Like, what's going on with you? Then if they say, what's going on with you? How are you? It'd say, oh man, I'm like so excited. Like be positive. Just say, like, well, I'm overwhelmed. I just got into real estate. Like, then share it with them, just, man, I'm like super excited about this. Or you have to use your words. Like, I got into this, I don't know if but I got into real estate. I'm really excited. I decided, I've always been a dentist, and I decided, I really, it's, I'm burned out on it, or, hey, I've always been, I'm tired of stacking books and I really want to, whatever. I mean, find a thing that you can say, that you can share, that you're doing this. I think that's a value. But remember to ask if it's okay if you talk, and then just ask questions of them about, where they're at if you really want to. But the biggest thing is build rapport with them. And here's one that's not in here that I will tell you is a great tip. That's like a script tip that you can always, that will serve you your whole career. If you end your conversation with some version, depending on your situation, end it with some version of, would you be okay with, or some people say, would you be offended? Because nobody's going to say they're offended. That wouldn't be something I would say, but for some people that they can get away with that. But you basically just say, would it be okay if I follow up with you next week or next month, or, would you mind if I, ask that question, right? Basically what you're trying to do is you want to use an intentional dialogue to get permission from them to connect with them again. And it is so critical you hear me on that, because anytime you're talking to somebody with that, and you kind of left it on, there was not necessarily, well, even ideally you created some reason for you to follow up with them. But if you didn't, if you're just checking in and you just want to, like, especially if it's business wise, just say, hey, you guys take care. Like, do you mind if I reach out to you like next month or whatever, to see what's going on? Or maybe they're busy. If they're busy, when you answer, you say, hey, do you have a minute? No, I'm not, I'm busy. Like, oh, no sweat. Is it okay? Would you mind if I reach out like this weekend? What's best for you? Would you, just ask for permission. And then the psychology of it is, people, when you give them permission, or when they give you permission to call them back, and then you call them back, they can't be upset because they told you to call them back. Does that make sense? I know it seems silly, but it's been studied, and it's just how people are. It's how we all are. So, and undoubtedly you've had some salesperson do that to you at some point, like called Comcast, like, okay, is it okay if I follow up with you next week and see if you're ready to make the decision? And the thing is, like, you have to work really hard at saying no, because you realize it creates a disruption to say no, like, to that person. But when it's a personal person and you're building rapport with them, of course they're going to say yes. They want you to too. They're like, yeah, dude, totally. Call me this weekend. I'll have our time to talk. Okay, great. I'll talk to you later, and let them go, totally doable. So anyway, I just want to encourage you guys in that. Those are a couple tips. Just know that usually these aren't probably the best ones, but if you get on some of our script practices where we're talking about, handling certain, like, for example, you say, how's the market, right? Well, the intentional dialogue that you might be tempted to answer differently, the intentional dialogue says something like, oh, it's great. It's, it's like you're like, it's an amazing market, instead of like, well, it's up or it's down. The reason why is, if you always want to say, oh, it's a great buyer's market, a great seller's market. The thing that you're actually, the intentionality of what you're doing is, you're not trying to actually just answer their question. What you're trying to do is actually find out why they're asking you the question. So a lot of times when people, it seems like your natural, as it talks about above, it talks about your entrepreneurial response. Your natural entrepreneurial response might be to give them the information that they directly asked you about. But when in reality, or answer their question. But in reality, if you're using intentional dialogues to be successful in this business and to actually help them truly, then you really want to find out why they're really asking you, what are interest rates doing? Like, that's a great question. Why are you thinking of buying or selling? Or why do you ask? Or what do you, I don't know, you don't want to interrogate them, but it's like, you just ask questions. Don't just give them the information necessarily, because you don't know why they're asking. I had one where a good friend of mine randomly asked me, like, how long do you need before, when you like list a home and getting it on the market or whatever? But what I didn't know is they were under a time crunch to get their home sold and leave town. I kind of knew they were going to move, but I didn't know they'd already made that decision in that moment. It was like just a moment in time. And I answered my standard answer, and I made the mistake of not asking them questions about it. I just said, well, I mean, under perfect circumstances, I've love it like a week or two, because I want to, do the proper, marketing and photos and video and all this stuff and whatever. What I should have done is said, Well, it varies based on, you know, the lot of level. I said, what's your, why are you asked? What's your, are you, well, you know, I should have asked questions and I didn't. And because I didn't, they had somebody else listed who said they could get it on by the weekend. And it was like the middle of the week. And I was like, just pissed at myself. I was the only one to blame because I didn't ask questions. I didn't clarify why they were asking. And that was just, I was just dumb. It was dumb that I didn't ask questions. I made assumptions and I just, you know, that's what happens when you don't ask questions. It was in their benefit for me to actually ask them more clarifying questions.
Really like that you said that, because I wouldn't have necessarily thought about that.
Yeah, you just have to, right? Because it's not just because I lost the business, it's because I didn't serve them well by asking them more questions. What seemed like a kind of a simple off the cuff, the way they asked it, it really did seem like, hey, we might sell our house in the coming months. That's literally how it came across to me. And that's not, we want our house on the market by the end of the week so we can be gone by the end of the month. Which is where they were at. So anyway, all right, let's move past scripts. Any other questions on anything on scripts wise? We could go, I mean, scripts can go on and on forever conversationally. Let's jump into, notes. So your goal with notes is to, don't worry about putting your card in there if you don't have a card. Don't write notes because you don't have a business card. Just write a note. Just do it. I'll help you solve the business card problem if that's a problem. Just write some notes. The reason you write notes right now is a couple things. One, how many of you get notes in the mail right now? Exactly. Oh, hey, we got one. Woo, Thornton. How does it feel to get a note? A letter, and actually that's not from your credit card company or whatever. Feels good, right? Yeah.
No, it feels good, especially over the holidays. All my friends do all that, pictures of their families and stuff.
Right? Doesn't it feel good?
Yeah.
So the main reason you guys are writing notes right now is because nobody gets freaking notes in the mail anymore, you know? So just do it. Just say, what's up? I mean, you could literally write a note and say, hey, thinking of you, what's up? Send it. It doesn't have to even literally just write that. I mean, you know your people, just write something, anything. You don't have to write anything about real estate. Just say hi. And they're going to go, wow, that was crazy. So good to hear from Jamie. Oh my gosh, what's crazy, you know, right? Just do that. Remember, we talked about your goal of connecting with people is to build rapport, build trust, you want to build that relationship such that when it is time for them to actually need the services of somebody, you've already built that connection point. That's the goal of this. The goal isn't to like sell them a house every time you talk to them. In fact, you shouldn't have that not be your goal, right? And you shouldn't avoid real estate because it's okay to be a professional, and yet don't drip on them with real estate all the time. That's why I don't like this scripts. I think those are outdated, the ones on another page, because we just don't do that anymore. That is not our current market, our current ethos of communication with everything that's going on in the world right now. So don't do that yet. Be ready for somebody to just say, how's the market, or what's going on with you? And dude, I got into real estate. It's crazy. It's like drinking from a fire hose, you know. There you go. There's your script right there. Oh, it's crazy. It's like drinking from a fire hose. I'm loving it. Yeah, write it down. There's your answer. Everybody that you call, you like them your answer. So write the notes. So 1 is because nobody's doing it. 2 is because it's a good activity to remind you of those people and actually stop and think mentally for a second. You know, what's going on with Jamie? Gosh, I haven't talked to her in a while. It causes you slow down just long enough to actually engage with each person that you're writing that to in your mind. And that's important. If we are truly servant-hearted and we're servant people, taking a second, like literally 5, 10, like a minute, 30 seconds to actually think about somebody is it's so valuable, you guys. You know, even if you don't say all that, you just took that minute to stop and think, gosh, what's Judy up to these days? God, man, I need to call her, you know? And then there you go. And then make a list of people that, shoot, I need to follow up with that person. I'm going to call them like in a week or 2, you know, I'm just going to do that. And gosh, I wonder what's going on. Oh man, the last time I talked to them, holy crap, that was 2 years ago, you know? Here's something. I'm going to give you another script tip, hot buttons. Good. Never apologize. And what I mean by that actually is be humble and apologize when you own it. Don't apologize for not calling them. Don't apologize for not keeping in touch, because guess what? Guess who else hasn't kept in touch? Them. The other person has also not kept in touch. So they should be apologizing also, if you want to put it that way, right? Don't apologize for not keeping in touch. It's a negative. Oh, you know what? I think I can find that on my phone. It's a negative. I'm going to look for it because I think it's so important right now. I just got where did I get this from recently? Somebody forwarded it to me and I was like, I had the biggest aha about that. And I hope I can find it because it was sort of mind blowing for me. Might not have saved it quick enough. Well, anyway, if I see it, I will, wait, is this it? No. It was so good because the point of it is essentially that it actually is, when you apologize, it's actually a negative vibe conversationally for how they put it. But oh my gosh, that was so good too. Man, I don't know where I saw that. It was somebody sent it to me and I thought I saved it, but apparently not. That's kind of a drag. It was so good. Yeah. Oh well. Well, anyway, if I come across it, I'll forward it to you guys. Oh man, I'm bummed because that was such a good one too. But it reminded me that sometimes we come across with, oh, I'm so sorry, or oh, I should have called you, or no, don't bring the negative into that. Just say, I'm so glad I'm talking to you now, or I'm so, like whatever, like it's been so long. Just say like, I'm so glad we got a chance to connect today. That's doesn't that sound so much better than, oh, I'm so sorry I haven't called you, right? That one's so negative and one's so positive. Like, so glad we connected today. Is it okay if I reach out to you next month or whatever? Would you like me to connect with you like every so often? It depends on who you're talking to, right? So anyway, does that help? It's a little script tip there. So good. You know why you're writing the notes? Because number one, it feels great to get mail and nobody's doing it. So you get in their head. Number two, it gives you a chance to really think about those people for a minute and make a note about when you're going to call them or connect with them next, or what's really going on in their life. Move on to page 47. The A word, be accountable to your big why and your monetary goals. We've already talked about accountability. I talked to you guys. I mean, I kind of beat on it, but here's the reality. If you don't create well, as it says here, an accountability feedback loop, if you don't create something that trigger, I use the word trigger. So if you don't have in that loop, there's not a trigger to cause you to re-engage on something you're trying to do, then what happens is you forget, right? We just do. We get on, we get busy, a week moves on, and I mean, if you're human like the rest of us, then you're just gonna get busy doing other things, and there's not gonna be something that triggers you to bring back up, oh, that's right, my action plan is this, and I need to work on this, and you get busy. I mean, my kid, I don't want to bore you with my family life drama, but on Sunday last, whatever it was, the New Year's Day, no, second, my son had just been kind of seemed like he was sick, whatever. Well, he's 11. And Sunday morning, he couldn't even stand up. And we're like, there is something wrong with him. Like, I don't know what it is. So we take him to the hospital. We ended up going to take him to Randall's Children's Hospital. And he's in really bad shape. Turns out he's diabetic, or it just came on. And it sounds like it could have been COVID induced. That's a whole nother conversation. But because he had COVID like in September. But anyway, yeah, he was in really bad shape. I mean, he just was in bad shape. And we didn't know. I mean, we kind of knew, but we thought he was sick or something, had a flu, or, was dehydrated and all this other stuff. And so that derailed and then I came down with COVID. Like the next day I was actually sick with COVID. So I couldn't even be in the hospital or be a part of any of that. But that totally derailed my thinking, and it wasn't appropriate at that point to have, an accountability structure to like, am I getting my stuff done or whatever? But, needless to say that the distraction of that and everything, and being sick myself, I had a few moments of clarity, and I was realizing, holy crap, I'm not getting any of my goals done. I'm not getting anything done that I'm supposed to be getting done for my work or whatever. And, I had to decide it was okay that I didn't. But the point is, I was distracted. I had so much else going on. And there were times, even as in the days coming out of feeling really crappy, where I could have gotten stuff done, but truthfully, I had no structure in place. I was so mentally distracted with everything going on. I was just being horribly unproductive, and I could have been more productive had I had a healthy accountability loop of just in my own structure or goals or things that I had in place to help me. I would have actually felt better about the few times of productivity that I could have engaged in if I'd had that loop in place, but I didn't. And you know, even my leadership was there for me, but I wasn't the accountability I needed on that right then. So, you know, had I done better about having good habits around some of my things I needed in place, I could have engaged on those things, and it wouldn't have, even through all that distraction, I still would have felt good about, you know, achieving some of the things I needed to achieve, you know, and still being there for my kid and still getting better, you know, but I didn't. So it was hard to wake up and be like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, you know? So anyway, moving through here, you know, that accountable, we talked about the one thing on page 49, you know, it's super important that you guys get the one thing. Like I said before, if it doesn't fundamentally change you guys, I will buy your book back from you. I will pay you for it. It will inform your living perspective in a way that you cannot understand. It's so good, so worth it. But regardless, those activities, as you guys are being accountable here, as it says on page 49, you know, the truth is there are things that are important, and there are things that are in your 20%, and often things that are important, if you don't take care of them, they will become urgent. When they become urgent, you don't get to structure your time the same way. And there are times when things will be urgent, you know, in this market, showing a new house on the market sometimes is, you know, you have to really figure that out, because sometimes that does get forced onto your schedule. But the vast majority of things, if you do them and you time block for them, like for example, lead generation, it's not urgent until you haven't done it, and then it becomes highly urgent because you haven't done it and you need money. So don't wait till it's urgent. Do it when it's important. Do it when you can schedule it on your time, when you want to do it, and then you will get it done, and you will be taking care of your 20% at the time when it needs to be taken care of, and you won't be that when you're doing your important and you're doing your 20% at the times that you've scheduled it, then you're acting and living and working proactively. When you don't and you wait, you are now in reactive mode. Is anybody like living in reactive? Like, do you like being a fireman your whole time, all the time in your life? No, I mean, times it can be okay, but it's stressful. I don't know about you, but being a fireman and being in full reactive mode all the time, not only is it stressful, but it also is most often it's a bad habit of basically reactivity, and then you end up not doing the things you need that they're important. So work on the things that are keep you in the important quadrant, important, and make sure you're working on the important things before they move over and become urgent. You know, it'll serve you well. Any question on that? Well, prioritize, you know, those things, right? Make sure you got to prioritize. You got to one thing it. Basically, I say one thing it. Get that book and you'll know what I'm saying. One thing, everything you do, one thing it. And then if you can get to where you're focused on the right things, work with your coach and nail those things down, get permission to work on some things and let the other things go. And then if it's not, what did I say earlier about if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. If it's not on your calendar, if you erase it, you must replace it. So put it on your calendar, block your time, protect the time. And during this, you know, during this Ignite, we go down here, if I scroll down to, well, you've got all the kind of activities listed here on page 52, 3, 4. Page 54 is a nice kind of overview of the different phases of the different, where you're going to be in the different Ignite calendar. It's not, you know, perfect, obviously, because each week we're not, I mean, I don't know if we're following this perfectly, but generally speaking, you can kind of see the flow here. It's going to stay in that order, at least, at the very least. So you can, you know, have confidence in that. What else do I have for you here? So really, yeah, I mean, we're all talking about calendar and you know, you guys, does anybody have any question about who their coach is? You should all know who your coach is, right? And does everybody feel comfortable about connecting with their coach to make sure they know what they need to be working on and helping prioritize that and saying, hey, I got 6 things. I don't know which one I should focus on. Is that, you guys feel comfortable doing that? Checking with their coach, or if not, reach out to me. I'll help you. And make sure, I just want to make sure you end this, as we go through this, that you know who you can be accountable to, who will help you, and have that A word be a positive word for you. Have accountability be, hey, this person is helping, convert accountability to help. And this person is going to help me get to where I want to go. That's what an accountability person does for you. If they're not helping you get to where you need to go, then you need to find somebody else that will help you, that wants to help you, get where you want to go. Truly. And it needs to be on page 58, rules. Those are important. You can have people like your spouse. I have found, and I don't want to call it science, but the study of this has found that there are few examples where a really good spouse relationship can actually be a good accountability, but often it isn't, unfortunately. Often you're too comfortable. It can be a safe place to share. If you look at the roles on page 58, it can be a safe place, sure. Frequency, obviously, around your spouse all the time, but a commitment to sticking to it is tough because you see your spouse all the time. So it's not, is 5 minutes from now the part where they hold me accountable, or is it once an hour, or is it only in the mornings we talk about accountability, and then the other 16 times we don't talk about it? That's that kind of problem, right? And the follow through, you get too comfortable, but it's important. You got to have that follow through. Now, if you have a very good spousal relationship where you sharpen each other, hey, more power to you, and you have a safe, you respect each other, you respect what each person brings to that sharpening thing. Great, that can work. But most of the time, find somebody else. Your coach should be one of them, but you should also have some other people, maybe another agent, where you just say, hey, I'm trying to work on this one thing. Can you help just remind me, or we can remind each other? Let's check in once a week, or let's check in whatever, like I have, right now I don't, but I've had men in my life where I've said, hey, let's ping each other each morning and say, hey, did you do this? Let's do this, and I know they're going to text me in the morning and ask me if I've done it, and I have to say yes or no. And I don't feel good about saying no, and I've committed to them that I'm going to do it, and I can't make excuses. So, find those commitment relationships. That's something I need to add back in, I will say, for me. So, and then when you're accountable, help other people be accountable, it helps you grow too. So find something you feel passionate about or good with, and then help somebody else out, and that'll help you. It'll help you grow, right? Well, that's probably, I think, the biggest thing I have here really for you guys. I don't want to just skip, but I'm just saying this commitment is important. I'm asking you guys to commit to, really making the most of this Ignite journey. On page 61, it talks about this, be committed. I commit to attending these sessions. I commit to, if you can possibly, I know life happens, but here's the thing, you guys have a calendar now. So what we ask for you is we ask you guys to commit to scheduling yourself, knowing that you have the calendar, schedule yourself to be on these calls. If you have to be at work and you can't, fine. If you have to, there's something that's going on and you absolutely just cannot be there, great. But then we ask you to commit to yourself to saying, if you erase, you must replace. You say, hey, I can't be tomorrow evening, I can't be on that, or this afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, I can't be on the call. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to it. It's usually not right away available. It's like a day or two. I'm going to put it on my Friday evening schedule to listen to it. So I want you to commit to us and to yourself to when you're going to listen in on and put it in on and listen to the recording of it. Yeah, I mean, really, that's what I got for you. These other commitments, I mean, they're all good. So commit to the mission and the calls, or yeah, my 4 o'clock is just blowing up my phone. So any questions I can help you guys with? Prepare for your next class. Page 66. You know, when I talked about the mission early on, it said, what's your thing? Page 66 right here. Here it is. Complete this mission prior to attending Ignite Power Session 2. So there you have it. There's your homework. It's on there. Now when you show up to the next one, the instructor can say, hey, did you do your mission? You can say, yes, it's on page 66, and fill out your kind of this recall and remember here. I'd love to go through ahas, but I've been asking you guys all along. If you guys have any questions or anything, I'm here for you. So anything, any mind-blowing stuff you want to share before we sign off? Any burning questions for me?
Nope.
Anybody have like a, oh my gosh, this totally was amazing, like this thing you said or this thing we talked about? Anything you want to share?
I just like when you said about asking questions, because that's a good way to respond instead of just blurting the information out to them, because you missed a big opportunity. So that was my biggest thing, I think.
Right? Yeah. When we ask questions, we show people that we care, right? When we sit here and when we like just tell them what we feel like we need to get off our chests, are we really caring about them? No, we're not, right? But if we ask them questions, if we truly care and they ask us a question about something, we dig down, we ask questions about it. That means we really care. And they feel that. They're like, they feel, because we're actually asking them more about it. They feel like we really care because we're actually listening and we heard them and we're asking more questions. And then we listen to what they said and we ask them more questions. They feel like we really do care about them. That's the best part about that, you know? So, all right, you guys.
Well, it shows you're engaged too in what they're saying. Bye.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Reach out to me if you need anything, you know, if I can help in any way.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure. Like I said, I'm here for you. You guys, this is gonna be a great journey. All
I
right.
got the book already for free, so it's Audible. So you're off the hook.
Woo.
You don't have to pay me back.
Winning.
So have a good one.
You too. All right. See ya.